Welcome back, episode 31 of the Collecting Shiz podcast, interview podcast, whatever it is. But before I jump in, introduce my friend Mike here. Gotta mention, I have a new podcast channel called Slabbed Podcast. That's going to be a weekly podcast, nothing like this. This is an interview style. I appreciate you coming on, Mike. Down below is my new podcast. It's linked below Mike's stuff, so go check it out. But this is the man of the hour. Let's talk to Mike, Lieutenant Surge's training area on Instagram. Mike is a WotC collector, not so much Japanese, as we were just discussing a little bit. Played the game, played some Yu-Gi-Oh, played Pokemon. So I'm really looking forward to talking to you, getting to know you as a collector, what you're doing, and how you're doing it. So if you could, for everybody out there that doesn't know you, please introduce yourself. I'd greatly appreciate it.
Yes. Hi. Good evening. Thank you for having me on the air, Joshua. My name is Mike Kansar, and I also go by Lieutenant Surge's Training Arena. I am ex-federal law enforcement, so that's hence the name Lieutenant Surge's Training Arena. It's the most current relevance I can have to the hobby as far as like being a man of uniform is concerned and relating to the show. And I originally came up from, being in tournaments and playing as a kid at the Pokemon Center in New York City. And I collected throughout childhood, but, I didn't get into investing and grading until about 2015, in my later, college years and adulthood years after graduating. The hobby always tends to come back to you. So I mainly collect first edition base, the Big 16 Hollow set, PSA 10s, Beckett 9.5s, and I also collect the non-hollows, and I'm a big fan of all the WotC sets, but the first edition base set is the one I focus mostly on as a collector.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, I love first edition base. You can't go wrong with it. Obviously, it's the OG, right? But I kind of want to take it back a little bit, step into the beginning of like where your collecting began. So what was like the Kickstarter? Was it video games, or what video game, or was it primarily cards that got you into Pokemon?
The first experience was with Pokemon Blue. I was about 8 years old, 10 years old. My neighbor who lives above me actually approached me with a big poster in his hands. And he had the original poster from the Game Boy game. And he was able to name off all 150 off the poster. But what I didn't realize was that the poster was actually see-through. So he made it seem like he memorized 150 names, but I'm like, wait a minute, he saw them through the paper. That's how he was able to name them off so sufficiently, or maybe he did memorize them. And then once he introduced that to me, I kind of bought the Game Boy Color. The first one I had was the purple one, and the Pokemon Blue was the first game I played. And as you start off with Bulbasaur because then it's easy to defeat Brock and Misty, but then you struggle with Lieutenant Surge, who's the third gym leader. So I kind of got into the video games first. I didn't play the TCG on the Game Boy as much. It was mostly the adventure game. And then I remember getting into like Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2 on the N64. And then I got into Pokemon Gold and Silver because, the next 150 came out or whatever it was, 100 or 150, which was the, first was the Kanto era, then was the Johto era. And I followed all the way through into Ruby and Sapphire as well as Emerald. That's and then Fire Red, Leaf Green. I want to say that's where my roots kind of from childhood kind of died down and subsided. Now, as I was playing the game from about 1999 to about 2004-ish, 2003, 2004-ish, I got into the cards by default because everybody in school had them growing up. Everybody would bring them to school and trade them, and we would battle. And I'm a Brooklyn kid. I'm born and raised in Brooklyn for 31 years of my whole life, and going strong, of course. The Pokemon Center is in Rockefeller Center in Manhattan, as you very well know, and then it got converted to the Nintendo store.
Yeah.
So as a kid, underground, they had tournaments in the Rockefeller Plaza, right where they have the skating rink in Midtown Manhattan, right by St. Patrick's Cathedral. So I would go every Sunday with my dad, and we would go to the Pokemon Center, and I would battle in tournaments. And I remember winning a couple of them, and there was prizes and all types of incentives. And you would collect. I would also buy the figurines off the wall, the ones that cost $3.95, and they came in like little cardboard and plastic. And I had a whole wall, case of them, about maybe 100 of them or 150. So that was definitely very nostalgic. And me and my father, my mom would come along too, and my grandma, but me and my dad would mainly go. He would go on trips with me to like Toys R Us, and he would buy those big box sets, like with like 20 different packs in them, from like Jungle, Team Rocket, Fossil, Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge. And, I would play during the daytime, and then we would go to mass, because I'm, Polish Catholic. We would go to mass in the evenings at like 5:30, or sometimes we would go to mass in the afternoon, like around 12. And then I would have the rest of the evening to play in tournaments. Because the tournaments would go from about like 9 to 5. So like, as long as we went to Catholic mass, it was okay. Whatever tournaments, it was fine. But my dad was like, I'll take you to these tournaments and you could play and participate and everything, as long as you go to mass and be a good boy for me. So, that's kind of like the agreement that me and my father had. Yep. And from battling to collecting, everything was obviously raw and played, and we didn't care to grade PSA 10 because that wasn't really like a big thing for. I'm 31. I don't know if you're from the same era, but that generation, like, kids were like, throwing them on the street, like, playing with them and giving them out. People were giving them out like candy for Halloween, so it wasn't really a big deal to have a PSA 10 of anything. Like, no one really cared for that. So I didn't start grading till about 2015, but it was the Pokemon Center. And I even went as far from the Game Boy Color to the Game Boy Advance to the Game Boy Advance SP that flipped open.
Oh, yeah.
I want to say I stopped at about 2003, 2004. That's when I was entering high school. And I kind of like subsided a little bit. That's when it was all about Holon Phantoms and, Deoxys and Dragon Frontiers, all the EX sets. Because I collected throughout EX era as well, as, from the original WotC sets, the Johto sets, all the way to EX. I want to say I stopped at about Fire Red, Leaf Green, and Returns. But then they kept launching more and more sets. 05, 06, 07, 08. That was my high school years. 09. And then I want to say I picked back up in 09, but like I sold off all my sets that I had in my binder back in 2015. And my biggest accomplishment was a Charizard Skyridge PSA 10 holo that I pulled as a kid from a pack that cost $3.26. And I graded it in 2015 as a PSA 10, and I sold it off. It was, at that time, it was worth about $700. Sold it off in a Skyridge set for about $1,500, $1,300 to $1,500. And I paid off my master's degree with it, because I went to the University at Albany for my master's in criminal justice. So I sold off in 2015, and then I started back up, but only first edition base in 2017, 2018, because that was the one set that I was deprived of as a kid, either because I couldn't afford it, or I couldn't find it, or it was nowhere to be around.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my story.
Yeah, that's crazy. So basically, there was, obviously, looking at your Instagram, everybody go check it out. It's linked down below in the description. You have some Yu-Gi-Oh stuff on there as well. So did you pick that up at the tail end of Pokemon TCG, like 03, 04, or?
Yes. Yu-Gi-Oh kind of erupted around that time in the later 2000s, but I didn't know how to duel and battle. I just kind of watched the TV show. Like, it was a little bit harder to understand, but I tried getting into it a little bit. It was more for the artworks and the illustrations and the holograms, and like, it was cool. But it didn't. I actually played the Pokemon TCG. The Yu-Gi-Oh TCG I really didn't get into. And around that same exact time, actually, Digimon was very kind of in the loop at that same exact time. Digimon. But Yu-Gi-Oh, I bought up. I was only collecting, I want to say, the first couple of sets: Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon, Metal Raiders, Magic Ruler, otherwise known as Spell Ruler, Pharaoh's Servant, Labyrinth of Nightmare. I want to say that like I stopped at about maybe the fourth or fifth set, and I did have a collection of them, but I did not battle or play. It was more about the artworks, the holograms, super rares, ultra rares, secret rares, and like that was kind of a cool fad. But I don't think it has the same type of substantial impact that Pokemon had on my life. I wouldn't categorize it the same way.
Yeah, I think me and you are pretty close to opposites. I never played Pokemon, and I played Yu-Gi-Oh, but I collected Pokemon. So it's literally it's pretty wild. Like I had the same come up where blue version, and I played all the way up to Fire Red Leaf Green. But it's pretty interesting how we had like the exact opposite card experience. So that's pretty sweet.
Yeah, that is interesting because you meet a lot of different people in this hobby, and cross hobbies, of course, and they have all types of different experiences. I have yet to meet somebody who has played the Digimon game. That's
Yeah,
one that is it's such a small percentage because a lot of people collected and they had the anime series, but then they also had the actual series that you can battle with. And I have cards from both. It's kind of like compared to like Topps Chrome, Spectra, Sparkle, Techno versus like the TCG of like base set and all the other WotC. So the
yep,
same thing with Digimon and Magic the Gathering was before my time, and they only had the TCG. So
yeah.
it's really cool to have both sides, but I never seen too many people that actually played the Digimon game. Very small percentage, I'm sure.
Yeah. So what in 2015 turned you on to grading? Like, because it took me a year before I found it. What
It was single-handedly one experience. Okay, I'll tell you what it was. It was in 2014, right before I want to say, right before the fall semester. Around that time, I was in Poland because I was on vacation with family, and
nice.
I was at my uncle's house, not far from Warsaw. Like he's over there, and I was online, and I was literally buying. I was trying to complete binder sets. So there was a website back in the days. I don't know if they're still around because I was buying from Collector's Cache and from Troll and Toad, and there was one called Gaming Etc. I don't know if you remember Gaming Etc.
No.
But they sold raw, loose individual cards for like 25 cents, 50 cents. I'm talking commons and uncommons. Rares would be for like $1. And I wasn't even looking at condition, whether it
Yeah.
was light play or near mint. Like it didn't matter to me. I would type in near mint because I wanted the best possible condition for the price that I was paying if I had an option to choose. But gaming, etc., you could literally fill up a shopping cart of like 100 cards, and it would cost you like 20 or 30 bucks at the time. It was pennies on the dollar back in 2014. And I was going set by set by set by set all the way up to like Fire Red Leaf Green, like just to fill in my binder collection. This is 2014. So then I was completing Neo Discovery, and
Yeah.
I was missing an Umbreon. And for whatever reason, I typed in Umbreon Hollow, and I think it was unlimited. I don't even think it was first edition. And a PSA 7 just popped up, and I saw it in a case. And I'm like, what on God's green earth is this card doing in this red and white, plastic holder with this tag? I'm like, what's the purpose of this? What's the point of this? It was near mint. It was a PSA 7 unlimited
Yeah.
Umbreon Hollow, and it was $25. And I'm like, $25 for what? I'm like, this card is not sell for this raw. I don't understand what the big deal is. So I just bought it just for the fun of it. Just kind of to say, hey, I'll still have a complete set, except for one of the cards won't be in a plastic sleeve. It'll be in a hard plastic case instead.
Yeah.
It won't align with all the other ones that are in the nine, the 333, the 9 card holder, or 18 card holder if you use both sides. But I was like, let me just get this just because. Like I didn't know what I was like thinking, or if I was buying it intentionally. It was a very nonchalant purchase.
Yeah.
And it came in the mail, and I got it, and I put it with the set. And I think I sold the set off with the Umbreon in there as a case, but I had no idea what this was. So I started doing research, like, PSA, this and that, typing in PSA 10. And I remember in 2015, I got hired with the hospital police. I was a law enforcement officer for the private hospital in a Presbyterian hospital in Brooklyn.
Okay.
I remember at that time I got hired. I got a bank, and I think I got approved for like my first credit card. So I had a little bit of a limit, or maybe I got my credit card a little bit later after that. But I remember wanting to purchase a first edition base box. And I remember wanting to buy a first edition base Zard PSA 10. So I typed in what I was looking for. And the price was, at that time, was about $8,000. $8,000 for the Zard, $5,000 for the box. or maybe 8,000 for the box and 10,000 for the Zard, something along those lines.
Yeah.
I was like, wow, if I'm going to buy this, I'm going to have to take out a loan. I don't have, $5,000, $8,000, or $10,000. At that time, I'm just a college graduate, got my first job with the hospital police. So I don't have, at that time, I don't have any, stupid buku money, to spend on anything, because I'm brand new. I'm fresh off the boat, as French Montana would say, or brand new, like Lil Wayne's album. I don't know which one sounds better. But let me just say this for the record. I'm like, okay, well, this is not a practical, reasonable, pragmatic, empirical goal for me. So let me find something that's more, suitable for my expectations. So I remember selling off my collection, paying off my master's degree. And then I had a little bit of money left over. So I bought 3 first edition PSA 10 packs from Christopher Kim. This is back in 2015. And at that time, they were $300 each.
The packs were graded?
The artwork of Charizard, Venusaur, and Blastoise,
Gotcha.
PSA 10 first edition.
Yeah.
The set. He sold them to me for about $1,000 at the time.
Wow.
And this is like back in 2015, so this is like cheap. And I'm like,
oh yeah, that's cheap.
Now, bear in mind, I've never opened a first edition pack at that time, and if I can remember, I don't even think I ever opened a Shadowless pack throughout childhood years. We never got that privilege, because by the time it came out and we were like in the stores, all they had was unlimited. You had to get it from the factory, first edition and Shadowless had to get it from the factory directly from Wizards of the Coast. So if you didn't have that privilege, if you didn't experience that nostalgic rush, if you never know what that felt like as a kid, there's a void that has yet to be fulfilled. And there is a strong sense of deprivation that is lingering in your heart. And you need to do something to stimulate that void. And what did I do? I bought those packs. Now they're graded. So now, years later, I come to find out that anything that was probably graded was probably a light pack. But we didn't think light pack, heavy pack, hollow, no hollow, percentage of a hollow. Nobody had these thoughts in their mind at the time. I just like the artworks. I'm like, I can't crack these open because they're graded, they're PSA 10. Like, how crazy would I be? Yeah. I ended up selling them, and then I got some more money, and then I was able to pay off some more loans. And at that time, it was like, I'm not going to crack open a case. But then in the end of 2017 and the beginning of 2018, like 2 years passed by.
Yep.
I got my first PSA 9 first edition Charizard for $5,000 at that time, or $4,900. I bought blister packs, 3 of them, artwork set, 3 blister packs at $1,750 a pop for $5,750 total from a friend of mine as well. And I forgot who this friend was, because I think he's been out of the loop for the longest time. Blastoise, Charizard, Venusaur. I did not weigh the packs. I just opened the cardboard.
Full send, yeah.
And nobody, I didn't even know what it meant to weigh a pack. What 21 grams is heavy and under 21 is light. Yeah. Who would have thought? Yeah. I pulled a Mewtwo. First edition from one of the packs, and I sent it off to PSA. And I also pulled a Poliwrath. That's like 2 out of 3. The third one had a Clefairy doll. And I was just amazed. I was like, yeah. I've never experienced this before. This is the greatest feeling in the world. I pulled a Mewtwo. I sent it off to PSA. I subscribed to a membership with PSA, whether gold or platinum, whatever it was, 6 or 15 free submissions. And I sent in the cards from the packs. I think it was like 33 cards, because 11 cards a pack.
Yeah.
And this baby has been with me since the end of 2017, beginning of 2018, and I never let it go. And I pulled a 10. I pulled and graded a 10.
Yeah, there you go. That's sick.
And that was what started it for me. That was what started it for me was this card. To be able to experience it on that level, and I'm like, wow, like absolute wow, just amazing.
How'd the Poliwrath do?
The Poliwrath got a 9. It was off-centered. I sent it in again. It got a 9. I didn't even get into Beckett until afterwards. That was my first nostalgic rush.
Yeah.
That was in 2018. Now in 2020, 2020. Okay, well, actually, I did a trade deal in 2019. It was November of 2019 where I traded a PSA 9 Zard first edition along with 2 booster boxes, Neo Destiny and Gym Challenge first edition. Traded for a 9.5 Zard at that time. It was about a 20K deal in November of 2019.
Yeah.
And 2 blisters. Now, I'm not going to say who the deal was with. It was done in person. The person said he wanted to keep it private and confidential, so I'm not going to mention his name because I respect that. And I think that's for the best anyway. And out of those 2 blisters, I opened them. I opened the blisters, and at this point I was educated. I was educated about the weight of the packs. Now, mind you, I opened the blisters, not the packs.
Yeah.
One of them weighed 20.92 or 20.95, which is below the border. The border is 21 and up.
Yeah.
It takes a lot of guts to do what I did, but I did it anyway. This is January of 2020. Okay, pre-pandemic. The first blister, 20.95, 20.92 or long. This is very risky business here. This is very risky business. And guess what I pulled?
Another Polyrath. No.
No, I pulled a Blastoise.
Hell yeah.
And I sent that baby in to Beckett this time because I wasn't really happy with what PSA was, grading at the time. And Blastoise graded a 9.5 Gem Mint with a 10 on surface, 9 on corners, thick stamp, of course.
Hell yeah.
I know it's a little hard to see, but like I just tried. That was my first time being a Beckett client. And even though it wasn't a PSA 10, it's the second most expensive card in the set, right next to Chansey. It's very debatable, right behind Charizard. And it's like I pulled him out of the blister that I traded. I didn't even care what was in the second pack. The second pack was light. I pulled the item finder. It didn't even matter because I needed commons and uncommons for the PSA 10 set anyway. So I was so far ahead on the Blastoise that what I pulled in the second pack, I said, it doesn't even matter. I'm just doing this for fun. I don't care. Heavy, light, doesn't matter. Blastoise got a Gem Mint 9.5 and it's thick stamp. I'm like, oh my God. I mean, how much better can this get? Like literally you feel like
barely any better.
You feel like you won the lottery. So it's very addicting and it's very enticing. And it's like they hook you and then they reel you in. And it's like in the movie The Godfather. Every time I think I'm out, they pull me back in.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I just had to put that out there because you have great things that happen to you in life. And like just for people like us, regular, normal, middle class, working class people, we're not trust fund kids and we're not billionaires. We don't live on Billionaires Row, but just to experience that rush, that nostalgic thrill, I'm sorry, but it's priceless. And there is no feeling in the world that is comparable. I mean, how do you feel?
No, one day I hope to open one of those packs. That would be pretty sick. I have not opened the first edition base set pack yet, and it hopefully would happen. The price keep dropping on them, so see what happens. It's awesome. That's insane. Being able to pull that many holographic cards out of first edition base set packs is like for your own collection. That's sick, dude. That's sick.
But to grade them and get Gem Mint, because the thing is, pulling it is one thing, but grading it a 10 is. I mean, like, what are the odds? What are the odds?
It's scarce. You thinking about crossing the Mewtwo to Beckett?
For a BGS 10 pristine, I actually sent it in and it was denied. And I also had a quad +2 BGS 9.5 that had 10 surface, 10 centering, 9.5 corners, 9.5 edges. Sent that in for review, also got denied. And I thought maybe I'll cross it to PSA 10. But the thing is that once the subs are so strong, sometimes it's not even worth the crossover because there's people out there who will value a quad +2 higher than a PSA 10, depending on the collector. Yeah. So I was thinking about crossing the Stoice to PSA 10 because it has a 9 on corners. and a 10 on surface. And I know they're strict on corners and surface, but I figured those two can kind of offset each other, like as if they were a quad. Instead of a 9 and a 10, you could split the difference, 9-5, 9-5, and then 9-5 centering, 9-5 edges. But it's like, if you send it in case, expect to be denied. If you crack it, you have better odds. But the thing is, once you grade a 9-5, and that card is worth so much as it is, unless you're a billionaire and unless you have like unlimited funds, who is realistically cracking a 9-5 Blastoise first edition? I mean, it takes a lot of guts, and it's a gamble. But I'm sorry, but I'm just not the man for that. I can't do that. I just can't. I don't know if you can afford to do that, but I know I can't.
No, I struggle sometimes when I do it with like a $1,000, $2,000 card right now. It's that's crazy. I couldn't imagine. You just got to be Logan Paul. You just got to walk in there, put your nutsack on the table, and they'll give you a BGS 10. So
put your wear your Charizard across your neck when you fight Floyd Mayweather or something. I don't know. You got to have either pull, connections, somebody on the inside. I could speculate all day. I could sit here and speculate with you all day. I don't know what it takes, because I feel like if me and you walk in there, I mean, we're definitely getting denied. But if somebody who holds a special status in society and a privileged status, they might have better odds.
Yeah.
I mean, like, because Gary tried with that Charizard. He tried. He went in there with Leonhardt. They put a whole video up. They went in. They got denied. Next thing you know, the card is pop 3 BGS 10 because Logan Paul got it. I mean, whether he cracked it or sent it in case, the point is, like, they tried, got denied, and he was able to get it. So there's a lot of controversy around that. But then again, it does depend on the grader too, because the grader can have a good day, the grader can have a bad day. There's a lot of factors at play.
Definitely, man. Did you complete the whole 9.5 first edition holo set?
Yes, I did. I completed it roughly maybe a year ago or so. And then once I completed, and that's also on my Instagram page at Lieutenant Surge's Training Arena. If you go to my page and you scroll back, there is a picture of the complete 9.5 set. Towards the end, I was struggling with Raichu. And this is where I have to thank Low Popping Market, Low Popping Umair and his brother Ubaid as well. They're very nice people, very nice family. I'm very good friends with them. Just want to give them a shout out. I'm very, him, his brother, his mom, his cousin, his personal assistant. I mean, the whole squad. Low Popping, you guys are amazing. I want to just bring this out there. I had finished the set. I did the Raichu in a Shadowless just for the artwork and the print minus the stamp, and I could not find the first edition 9.5. I'm sure there's one around right now on PWCC Vault. But at that point, Low Popping turned me on to the PSA 10 Raichu. So I figured a PSA 10 or a Beckett 9.5, it's still a full set.
Yeah. And
he helped me acquire it. And he's helped me acquire a lot of cards, actually. He's a very good guy, very good friend of mine.
Oh, yeah.
So I would really like for people to tune into his page and buy his product. He's 100% guaranteed professional customer service, 100% authentic. Could not have a better experience than with Low Popping. I really can't.
He's been on this podcast twice. He's the only person I've had on twice.
he's a great guy. Him and his whole family, very great people. So he turned me on to the PSA 10, and at that point, I started to offload the 9.5 set and started to go for PSA 10. And I'm about 14 out of 16 in right now, and I'm missing Chansey and Zard. So that's going to be the big one. That's going to be, the kicker. But he's helped me acquire a good portion of the set, because he does deals, trade, cash and trade. He's very flexible. He's a business. He's a dealer, and he's amazing. And I thank him really. So at that point, I kind of gave up on just doing the 9.5s because, like, it's impossible to find the Raichu. It's impossible. You become so obsessed. You want everything in quad and better. You want everything in thick stamp. You don't want any 9 subs because people hate on 9 subs because is it really a gem mint card if it has a 9 sub on it and 9 is mint? So there's so many factors, so much controversy that goes into the equation. So I started to convert over to PSA 10s, and I started to offload 9.5s and transition into a 10 set. And at this point, I only got Blastoise and Charizard left.
Yeah, that's awesome. You Chansey and Charizard or Blastoise?
I have 9.5 Charizard and Blastoise. I'm the two that I'm missing from a PSA 10 set are Charizard and Chansey.
Gotcha.
So
Yeah.
those are going to be the tough ones. Those are going to be the tough ones.
Yeah.
I recently just got a PSA 10 Blastoise. So that, I mean, that was an epic milestone in my collecting career. But it's very challenging. There's a lot of work that needs to be done. You got to hustle, you got to wheel and deal, you got to be flexible. You have to have people skills, and you have to know how to communicate. And not everybody's going to want to work with you. You may not want to work with everybody. It's just, there's a lot of nitty gritty factors here, and you got to play the game, and you got to roll with the punches.
Yeah. What else besides first edition base set is there? I noticed there's some other jungle cards and some other gym cards on your page. Like what else? What else tickles your fancy, man?
I specifically really love BGS 10s and black labels. I love population 1 of 1s from Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge, Team Rocket, Jungle, Fossil. It doesn't have to necessarily be base, because base is very limited. I mean, there's just so little BGS 10s. I mean, I literally bought up, like, I can just show you offhand. I'm a big fan of like BGS 10s that are, in very low population, just because like there's only one of them in the world.
Yep.
And they're English. They're English print. You know what I mean? So, and then this is my buddies. But the point is that it's like you want that gold label on there, like knowing that you have the only one of the world in something, even if it's a small $100 to $300 to $500 card. I'm very meticulous with details, and I'm very particular when it comes to condition. And I like things that are inaccessible. I like things that are hard to obtain and hard to acquire. And like, you want what is hard to obtain. You want what people can't have, and you just specifically go after BGS 10s, English. Japanese, a lot easier to grade. And I've noticed there's more of them on the market than English.
For sure.
So, and personally, no offense to anybody. I mean, people can collect whatever they want, but I like to be able to read what I'm collecting. Like, that's just where I stand. Like, I want to be able to read it in English and just be able to articulate what I'm looking at, be able to make sense of it. Japanese is a lot easier to grade, and you still appreciate the artwork, but it's so much better when you can just read it. That's just me. And I'm not knocking anybody who collects Japanese. I'm not knocking that. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, so I like Japanese cards that have been out, and there's already English cards out, so I can look at the translations. But when they sneak peek new cards, it drives me nuts because I like the TCG, and I don't know what the effing attack does. Like, if I see it, it's 250 damage, but is it bad or is it good? I really want to know, is this going to be a playable card? Like, that's something. I know there's probably sets that where they translate it. I'm just super lazy, but that irks me a little bit. I would love to. I just need to find that. That'll make me really happy. So So I'm impartial. I don't care one way or the other.
You're talking about the modern cards, right? The modern.
Exactly. Yeah, the modern stuff. When I get the spoilers come out, and I'm like, son of a gun. Like, is this thing actually playable? I need to know.
When you said 250 damage, there's no way that can't be modern. That has to be modern, because coming up from our times, the most you can have is 120 HP.
Yeah.
And the most damage I've seen is 120 on a Blaine's Arcanine, which was Firestorm. Yep. And that was the max cap. Now you see 360 HP, 400 HP, 250 damage. I'm like, how do you even come up with enough damage counters or enough dice to put on a card to do that much damage? I mean, like, you must have some amazing damage counters and dice to be able to account for all those hit points, because that is just absolutely mind-boggling. I would say Japanese, I will say this about Japanese. There is one set, and I mean absolutely one set, that I absolutely admire and appreciate and adore as a collector. The VS series, absolutely love it. Only printed in Japanese, unfortunately. Card ass vending, 1996 card ass. Top Sun, for example, 1995, supposedly, until they realized it was 1997, because the correct production year was 1997. Everybody thought Top Sun was the first set. It wasn't. It was card ass 1996. PSA messed up on the labels. They put 1995. It's really 1997. Everything plummeted after that point. Yeah.
Yeah, it's still getting tanked pretty hard. Did you see Gem Mint Pokemon's English versus set?
Wait, there's one that actually exists?
Yeah, it was the Tropical Mega Battle. I think they gave out like a few decks of the English versus.
I've never seen an English versus card in my entire life.
I'll send you a video. He reveals the whole set, CGC graded.
What?
Yeah, it's there.
What? How many were printed?
It's speculation, like approximately 3 or 4 decks. So like 4 copies maybe of every card ish.
And how many cards in a deck? Like 6?
I don't. Yeah, I'm not sure exactly.
So you're saying there's 4 decks that were ever made in English?
That's what I think I remember. I think there was a guy called Blastoise Kid. If you look him up on Instagram, I'll link you all this. But yeah, so he had some of those cards, and Gem Mint Pokemon just acquired some, but not from Blastoise Kid, I don't think. They're
probably worth a fortune, aren't they?
Yeah, he didn't disclose the money he spent, but he said it was expensive as hell.
Wow, I mean, I didn't think something like that can exist, to be quite honest with you. I mean, BS is only Japanese to my knowledge. For you to say that an English version exists is, I mean, that's a first for me.
Yeah, you're gonna enjoy watching the video after this.
You know what that kind of reminds me of? It kind of reminds me of the Blastoise from the CD promo that only comes in Japanese when it was printed on the front of a Magic card, and there's only like 4 in the world, or like 10 were printed.
Protozoid.
I think the highest grade was like a CGC 8.5 that sold for $368,000, if I'm not mistaken. With Heritage or Golden or one of those auction houses. That's like that. I mean, it's really amazing. It's just really amazing.
Yeah, I want to say I think they have the modern Japanese backs to the English fronts.
Modern Japanese backs. So not Pocket Monsters, but the other back with like all the colorful rainbow colors and the Pokeball and stuff like that.
Exactly. Now I'm going to look it up real quick just to make sure. But yeah, it was insane. Like just seeing that type of stuff. Yeah, English versus rarest English Pokemon set 2 weeks ago. He posted it. So yeah.
That I mean, is that even something that you can sell, or is that something that's meant to be put in a museum or preserved, or what?
He ain't selling it, I guarantee you. So she'll be in a museum eventually.
That is, and then what? Do you know what they graded? Because you said CGC graded it. So
yeah, they're all over, right around. I would say anywhere from like a 9 to like a 6.5 or 7. Yeah,
so there wasn't too many 10 pristines in there, or anything.
No.
Were they played? Or like were they minty?
Yeah, I'd say they're probably just some kid that got them, and he just stuffed them into something without sleeves, and they got enough whitening to get 7s.
That's
excellent conditions, I guess.
That's amazing. Are you following? I see now that they're posting, like PokeRev had something about Japanese God packs, that they have that last card in the back, and it's like a big deal because like it has like one extra card. It's a God pack or a God card.
My understanding of God packs is where every single card's a hit. So every single card you get them. I don't know how often in Japanese cases. But yeah, so that's my understanding of the God pack. I haven't followed PokeRev. I watched some of his vintage videos, but not too much Japanese or any of those other openings.
Right. Yeah, that kind of like reminds me of like special. When you think of special packs, you think of like the LC packs from Legendary Collection 2002 that had the Expedition 4 position only cards inside. And there would be like I think 4 or 5 in there. Maybe what is it 4? I think it's like 4 cards per pack, if I'm not mistaken.
Exactly. Yep.
Like something that's very unique and special. I mean, I don't think the best experience I ever had was when I bought a Legendary Collection deck in 2002, and that deck comes with the Charizard.
Non-hollow,
Comes with the non-hollow Charizard, and it comes with a reverse hollow. And this is when I was at the Pokemon Center, and when I bought that deck, I got the non-hollow Charizard, and the reverse hollow happened to be this Charizard.
That's sick.
Like, not this same exact one. This one's obviously my friend's, but it was the reverse hollow of the same. I had two Charizards in one deck. That's like, I would say that's the best experience I've had in terms of like lucky draws, or like if you opened up any of the E-Series packs and you had a rare, a reverse hollow rare, and a hollow rare in the same pack. Like, that was also another possibility.
Yeah, I think the Mewtwo PSA 10 should be up there. Like, that's getting a PSA 10 out of those packs right now is pretty crazy.
I feel like the times have changed, because like back then it was definitely easier to grade, and I feel like during the pandemic it definitely got a lot harder. You know, it definitely got a lot harder, and they got stricter on grading. The prices went up. You know, the turnaround times. I mean, I could tell you a lot of stuff that, like, it took me about 5 months to get a Machamp back from Reholder, from Recase. 5 months, and 4 months for a Clefairy. So nowadays it takes about a month, but before that it was definitely a lot longer, because there's a big backlog, and you know, it's like, I feel like now things are kind of slowing down. Beckett has a special going up until, I want to say, January 3rd or 13th. It's 2-day service at $50 a card. Just for a very limited time. They were charging $250 during the pandemic and everything, and now they're charging $50. So the company can definitely afford to grade your cards at $50 for 2-day service. They just figured they would try to get people to spend more, and then people stopped grading because the wait times were long, the prices were gouged, and then the quality of service you get, something that ordinarily would have graded a 10 pristine, a black label, or even a 9.5 quad or better by today's standards, is getting a 9 or an 8.5 if you're even lucky.
Yeah, exactly.
So like, you're not getting that bang for your buck. You're not getting the same quality of service. And a lot of people are discouraged from grading these days. And I find it easier to just buy a slab than it is to try to grade a slab yourself.
Yeah, it's a lot of people. Yeah, it's easier to make money by doing it the other way. But if you're chasing tens of vintage cards, you might end up paying a lot more than what you want to get the card you need. So, or waiting at least a really long time. So I'm impatient. Just
you just want to buy it. You just buy what you want, and that's it.
Yeah, exactly.
Liquidation stuff. How do you feel about crossing cards in case, crossovers in case, not cracking? Because everybody and their mother says you have to crack. How do you feel about crossing in case?
I've gotten wrecked every time I've done it, so not a fan.
Has there ever been one success story with you on crossing in case, or has it always been a failure?
Failure every time.
I've never crossed a 9.5 to a PSA 10, and I was itching and irking to cross a quad +2 Mewtwo because of the subgrades. I'm thinking, oh, PSA is going to look at this. They're going to say 10 surface, 10 centering, 9.5 corners, 9.5 edges. There's no way it can't cross. It's 0.5 away from pristine, and a 10 pristine goes for more than a PSA 10. So why would they not give it the PSA 10? Because it's reputation. They have to defend their reputation. They're just not going to give it to you. I mean, back maybe 5 years ago, maybe yes. Today, definitely not. And you have to submit true gems or better. If you submit 10 true gems, you'll be lucky if you get 1 or 2 crossovers. I feel like they just don't want to crack it. They don't want to give it to you. They might say it's easier for you to crack it than for us to crack it because we don't want to damage it. But I don't know. Like, I was itching to send that Blastoise in, and it's so discouraging. It's so discouraging. Like, you're like, you know what you have, but and they even say that once their graders get it, they put like a sticker over the the barcode so that the grader can be unbiased when they're grading it. And you'll put minimum grade 10, and then they'll say does not meet requirements. Just, you're basically giving away a donation to PSA, and you're paying somebody's pension fund out. That's what you're doing.
Yeah, I think it's tough, extra tough with Beckett crossing the PSA just because you got like 2 layers of plastic. You're going through the sleeve that the card's in, and they're going through the thick plastic. So for them to like get a really good warm fuzzy that this thing's a solid 10 without cracking it out, it's tough to do, man. Like even looking at my black labels that I have in the slabs, like it's tough to really look for like surface scratches and stuff like that through the thick plastics.
Very hard.
Yeah.
And then you have to cut that little plastic sleeve. You have to crack the big slab, but then you got to crack, you got to cut the little plastic sleeve, extract it. You have to make sure you don't, hollow foil scratch it, or you don't damage an edge here or a corner there. Centering's really out of your control. But like, there's just so much stuff. I mean, personally, SGC, the cards, they shake inside.
Yeah.
If you shake them, you might damage an edge or a corner because there's too much space in between, the borders. CGC, maybe a little bit of less shaking, but it still shakes. PSA, you shake it, you hear it. Beckett is more protected. It's more protected,
for sure.
but it's bulkier. But I just don't like the shaking. I'm not a fan of SGC slabs, and I'm not the biggest fan of CGC. People like it because of the clean aesthetic. But if you're an old school collector, and I see that that's one of the topics tonight too, PSA, CGC, BGS. I just want to, this is my perspective. If you're from the old school and you collect traditionally, then PSA and Beckett are your two go-tos. I mean, those are your slot receivers. That's your inside man. That's your Wes Welker. He's an inside slot receiver, and that's your tight end. Your Rob Gronkowski or your Plexico Burress on the outside on the wideout. Those are your main sources. You throw different components in there. People don't know what it is that they're paying, why they're paying so much, and what is this third-party, grading company doing, and all these people try to buy into the grading market. I was at Miami TCG with my wife, and all these new artificial intelligence grading, APS, we scanned it, we put it through some 3D laser machine, and it can pick up all the flaws. And then a human also looks at it too, because a human can make an easy mistake. There's a lot of imperfection involved.
Yeah.
And then there's, the machine might not pick up everything, because I've seen 9.5 Dragonite with 10 print lines on it. Apparently the scanner didn't pick it up. So I feel like there's too many flaws. And I know that's one of our topics for tonight here.
Yeah. So you're going to crack all of your PSA 10, send them to AGS then?
Yeah, right? Because one pizza has a Blastoise currently listed. My buddy Alex Alexandrovsky from Staten Island, he's not too far away from me. He's got a Blastoise listed for $99,000 because King Gary signed it and because AGS graded it. So like, oh my God, I'm supposed to be blown away by this. I'm supposed to be amazed because a machine said it's gem mint. Like I don't know. I mean, good for him. Like, I'm glad he has that. I'm glad he got it. I'm glad it got gem mint. But I saw a lot of companies. I mean, when I say a lot of companies, I mean like 20 different companies I saw at Miami TCG. They have AI, artificial intelligence grading, and they basically, now you can like have a digital image on your phone of the card, and you can twirl it, and it shows you all angles, and it registers to your personal ownership, and you can transfer ownership, kind of like a PWCC vault kind of thing. And I'm like, wow, like we've gone far in terms of technology, but this is a brand new company off the block. And like the gods at PSA would laugh at this. I mean, they would laugh at this. And even Beckett, like the traditional is always where it's going to be at. I don't think new companies are going to emerge on the block. And I don't think that they're going to dictate the culture of what we've already been involved in for the longest time. PSA since 1991, Beckett since 1986. I can go all day.
Yeah. Yep. So the CGC, you said you've had a CGC slab? Or no?
I've owned them, and it is clean, like around the borders and everything. But personally, it's not investable. And they're trying to catch up. They're trying to play catch up because they're grading so much volume in such a fast period of time at such a low price. And they're giving out 10s like there's no tomorrow. And I'm talking 10 pristine and 10 perfect, meaning 4 10s or 3 10s and a 9.5 gem mint. I'm seeing more and more and more. And people list them on the market and they're asking the same price that they would ask on a PSA 10 or a Beckett slab or something along the comparable lines. But I'm like, whoever's buying this, I don't want to say anything bad. I don't want to knock anybody. I'm not, that's not my job here to knock people or tell you what's right and what's wrong. I personally don't think it's investable. Some people say that CGC and Beckett are going to be neck and neck in the next 5 years. 100% I disagree with that. If you give me in front of me a 10 pristine, if you give me this 10 pristine right here, and you give me the same card in a CGC 10, even perfect or pristine, I'll even give you the perfect one just for the sake of argument. I'd rather take this 10 pristine than to take that CGC 10 perfect.
Damn.
Because the reason why is because of the roots and the upbringing and everything that comes along with that comes along with that, as opposed to something that's new on the block.
Yeah, there's something to say about PSA and vintage cards, and even I do agree in the sense that like all my vintage collection is primarily in PSA slabs, Yu-Gi-Oh and Pokemon, but CGC, I don't know, the gem rate, the 10 rate, I think is like maybe 10% now. PSA is at least 40 still. And modern, it's even higher. It's even higher for modern cards. But I don't know. I am a fan of CGC. They're perfects. I have a few of the really low pop perfect cards. I don't know. Are you familiar with any CGC populations? But I guess I'll just give you one. There's one perfect 10 first edition base set card.
One perfect 10 first edition base set card.
28,000 graded.
28,000 graded. Is it Machamp?
No, it's a Drowsy.
I think I did see a Drowsy that was a 10, but it might have been pristine 10, maybe not perfect 10.
Yeah, so there's literally just one perfect 10. Obviously, tons have already been graded, so maybe you can do the argument CGC is just grading kind of just the crap that's laying around, but 28,000 cards is a lot of cards to have just one perfect. So I do like the artificial scarcity, kind of like that. Like I like that. Like obviously you can go get a Drowsy anywhere, but I do like that it's got the really low population. I'm a big fan. That's a card I purchased, and I don't know. I just am a huge fan of it. How do you feel kind of about trophy cards? Because obviously that is similar to like art. It's similar. Like that's always the debate, right? So it's artificial scarcity, actual rarity. So what is your thoughts on that?
On like the Pikachu Illustrator? Or
yeah, just like, is that ever, because you said you like the chase. So obviously the rarity condition is one thing, but what about actual rarity to where there's only really low populations produced?
So like whereas like the Illustrator PSA 10 is a population 1 of 1 that Logan Paul bought for $5.75 million and made a chain out of. Like there's like just that one PSA 10 Illustrator in the entire world is like the world record card, but then the PSA 9 down from it is like 750,000. So
Yeah.
like 6,750,000 just because there's one of this and X amount of that. The disparity is humongous.
Yeah.
I mean, it might be a little hyped up, but if the Sotheby's auction house said it's 6 million, then it's 6 million. That for me, it's not an attainable goal. I mean, trophy cards, like the scroll, for example, which goes for about 28,000 at some point. You got the scroll, you got the super mega battles, you got, the Illustrator. It's not my area of expertise or knowledge to comment on. But I mean, I do know several people who are humongous fans of it, and it's just something that because for example, I saw the Umbreon, the Umbreon, the Japanese Umbreon that goes for about 110,000. It's like, I think it was 70,000 points. My friend Chris owns that. Chris and his brother Brendan, Pallet Town and Crystal, and they had it in the case. They had it in Miami, and like in Japan, like they explained to me the history behind it because they own it. That in Japan you had to You had to get to the next round, 30,000 points, 50,000 points, 70,000 points. And he broke it down to me and as to why it's so expensive, because so little was given out and you had to be the elite player in Japan, because this originated in Japan since like what, 1996, I think. It didn't come to America till 1999. So in Japan, you had to be like the best of the best, and that's why there's so much more tradition on that. Those trophy cards are significant chase cards. I respect them, and it is admirable. Just like the no rarities, just like the PSA 10 no rarity Blastoise, that is like maybe 80 to 100 grand, is worth more than a first edition English PSA 10 Blastoise because it came before it. Yeah. But in 1996, regular unlimited, or their first edition is no rarity, basically. The 1996 regular base is not as expensive as the first edition English base, but the no rarity 1996, which is the first edition of that version, like I've seen a Weedle listed at 5K, or like, a Vulpix or a Weedle. So it's like it came before it and it's their first edition. It's more expensive than English first edition. It's more expensive than the regular unlimited series. It's more expensive than first edition Korean or Chinese. Yeah. Like, you got to respect the roots, right? You have to respect, like, trophy cards or no rarity would kind of be in that same ballpark, right? Would you say?
Yeah, it's as far as like PSA 10s, I would consider like PSA 10 no rarities are really low population. But that is, again, like a conditional rarity thing. I think there are more obviously trophy cards. There's some that are more popular. There's more of them, then there's fewer of them, depending on which ones you're looking at. Some are just participation trophies, like top 32, or you went to this event. So yeah, I've never been a fan of those cards. It just, I am priced out on a vast majority of the ones I'd ever care for. Not really looking for like top 32s and stuff like that. So I've always been the conditional rarity guy, kind of like yourself. So
conditional rarity. See, we have to respect the roots. Like, if you love the hobby, you got to respect where it came from. I mean, like, it came from Japan. I mean, they had it before we had it. We wouldn't get it if it didn't originate in Japan. Yeah. So, like, I respect the roots. Now, personally, I don't collect those roots. Like, I don't collect the no rarities. I don't collect the trophy cards. A lot of that stuff is out of reach, honestly. But it's the original. It is the original. And like that, if that was never printed in Japanese formatting, us Americans wouldn't have the pleasure of enjoying it in English formatting. Let's be honest here. Let's be honest. I mean, you have to give it to Japan. You got to give it to the Japanese. You gotta pay them the credit when the credit is due, and you got to give them the respect that they deserve. Hands down, no contest. Okay, so I will give them that. Now, am I going to personally collect that? No, because I have the option to collect English that I can read myself, and it may not be as lucrative in value compared to the no rarity and the 32 printed or the chase card. Like you said, it still has value. It still has equity. It's still a market, it's a market item, but it doesn't have that same level of prestige. Now, when you say conditional rarity, you mean like a BGS 10, like the Zapdos you sold me, or the Zapdos that you own, the 3 Zapdoses you own. Conditional rarity, the population on that condition, because I respect the condition so much and the Beckett label so much that, like, I mean, me personally, I could not care for owning that, that card that was only printed in Japan, that all the, you have to be the best of the best and win the highest tournament to get awarded that Umbreon or that Vaporeon or that Flareon, because the Flareon, I think, was like 50,000, the Vaporeon was like 30,000, and the Umbreon was 70,000. And that was the cream of the crop, the creme de la creme, the top of the line. You had to be the best, and there was only so many printed, there was only so many awarded, and if you were that number 1 elite player, you got that card. And that's why that card sells for 110,000. That's the reason why it sells for 110,000. Now, I respect that, but that's not my era. That's before I was like into the hobby. I'm a 90s baby. I was born in 91, but like I wasn't in Japan in 96. I was in the US in 96, and I was in the US in 99. So when this stuff emerged in 96, we didn't even know it existed if you wasn't in Japan. If you weren't in Japan, you didn't even know this existed. Now, if you were in the States, you should be grateful and thankful that Japan decided they want to bring this stuff here to America and then Americanize it in English formatting. So, if anything, I consider it to be a privilege that we can reap the benefits that Japan made possible for us. How about that? What do you think about that perspective?
I think they like money a lot. They're very smart. Very smart. America's a very large economic beast. So
huge.
Yeah. So it's I don't know. It's everything's money goes down to the money. So I definitely mad respect for everything that I've been able to experience because of them. So
you do agree that you're happy that they brought the hobby to America.
Oh, if it never came here, there's so many animes that I've never watched that have never been translated into English that I'll never know about. If they didn't translate and make Pokemon in English, I probably wouldn't be talking to you right now. So who knows?
I remember as a kid, we talked about childhood memories. I went to Polish school on Saturdays. I'm bilingual. I'm fluent in Polish. So I went to American school in Brooklyn, Monday through Friday. And then on Saturday, when all the kids were playing soccer and watching cartoons and eating pancakes in bed with OJ and, marshmallows or whatever, with hot cocoa, I was in Polish school from 9 to 1, learning the Polish language. My father would record Pokemon because every Saturday a new episode would air, right?
Yeah.
And you mentioned one of your topics is other collectibles, topic number 4, right? So I want to touch on that a little bit because it kind of touches into topics.
We're all over.
4. Yeah, we're all over. Topics 3 and 4. Childhood days. I mean, I'm 31. How old are you?
31.
31. Okay. Beast Wars, Transformers, huge. Power Rangers, all the Megazords. I mean, originally Thundercats. You think, 5 animals combined into one mega beast. Cool, awesome. Power Rangers, Beast Wars, Pokemon, Digimon, Yu-Gi-Oh! Top 5, in my opinion. I would go to Polish school. My dad put the VHS in. He hit the record button, and he recorded that 30-minute fragment because I couldn't watch it because I had to go to school to learn a second language. I had to learn Polish so I could be bilingual. Yeah. Read it, write it, speak it, translate it. I'm grateful for it because I have it on my resume today, and I don't have any regrets. I came home from school, and I did my homework, and my reward was that I got the privilege to watch that VHS recording of that Pokemon episode that was aired, and it was a brand new episode. And they had reruns during the week, but I wanted to watch it on that Saturday. So my father made sure to take care and record it so I can watch it after school. And that ties into early childhood memories. Were you a Beast Wars guy? Were you a Power Rangers guy?
No, I was it was basically Pokemon for me. Pokemon was the thing. Like in 98 when it came out, I was 7-ish. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's when I started playing the games. But before then, I was pretty much not playing much anything outside of like my Nintendo. Played that with my dad. So I think maybe I can't remember when the PS1 came out. It was probably
around that time.
Right around that time. So
I want to say 2000. It came out like 90, maybe 95 or 96, 97.
Yeah, so we had that as well. So farting around with that, but didn't really get into much other shows or Pokemon was kind of king for me outside of Nickelodeon.
And then what about Yu-Gi-Oh and Digimon? Did that ever touch you?
Yeah. Yu-Gi-Oh was huge for me. First couple seasons, 2-3 seasons. Yeah. Digimon I never touched. I actually just opened a pack. Like somebody sent me like a starter deck, had like one pack in it. I ripped it open and got a secret rare, which worth like $10, but it was pretty cool.
Well, PlayStation. My first game ever was Crash Bandicoot. I love Crash Bandicoot. And N64. I want to say Banjo-Tooie, Conker's Bad Fur Day. Were you a Nintendo guy more than you were a PlayStation guy?
I was regular Nintendo, and then I went to PS1.
Oh,
okay. So I never had an N64 or a Super Nintendo. Those were played at other people's houses.
Well, I got my first PlayStation 1 for my second grade communion. My uncle from California called me, and he's like, "What do you want for your second grade communion? You want a PlayStation?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. I didn't even know what a PlayStation was. We hung up the phone. My mother said, "What's a PlayStation?" I said, "I think it's like a Hot Wheels racing toy car set." I didn't know what a PlayStation was. So then he came for my second grade communion and he hooked it up. I'm like, wow, this is the coolest thing ever. So like I got into that, and then your brain starts to develop from there. So I really am happy we touched on, childhood collectibles and nostalgic memories of video games and Transformers and Megazords. I mean, this is literally like, this is where we come from, man. This is our youth. It's
Yep.
It makes you who you are today.
So obviously you're familiar with this guy Kratos. He's you think he's tattooed on your chest, right?
Yeah. Would you like me to share?
Yeah, if you want. But yeah. So how's that guy doing for you? Like, did you play obviously some God of War growing up?
Yeah, God of War was huge.
That's sick.
Kratos is he's a huge character there.
Hell yeah.
I played the game in I think it came out when I was in high school or middle school?
It's probably like 05, 06.
Yeah, I think it was the first time was in high school days, and PlayStation 2. It's definitely PlayStation 2. I really like Kratos. I love the God of War. It's kind of like he very closely kind of resembles who I am, and like, being this warrior and working in the field of law enforcement in my previous years, and like being a hero to the American people in the city of New York, and working as a federal prison guard in my past. I've always worked jobs that were like law enforcement. I served the youth. I worked as a probation officer in family court, and I worked as a hospital police officer in the psychiatric ward, and then I worked in the federal prison. And basically, like, Kratos is like fierce, and he's a warrior, and he's strong, and he's bad, and he takes on all the monsters, just like I took on all the monsters in jail. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
Like, as an officer. So like, basically, it's that warrior mentality. It's that fight or flight that that kicks in. And I come from like a military background. My brother served in the Polish army. My uncle served in the Polish army as well. He works for customs. And my other uncle in Las Vegas, he was in the Marine Corps as an engineer, I believe. So like, I had military roots. I never personally served, but I worked in law enforcement, which was like the next closest thing to the military.
Yep.
And that was my way of like contributing to society and giving back to the community, and just being like seeing myself and as a hero to the American people and the people of the city of New York. I'm 31, 31 years and going strong. And that mentality, that Kratos mentality, when he fights and he defends his family, and he fights off the monsters, I have that ignited in me. I have that built up inside of me. So that's kind of like why I got that tattooed on my chest. And then on the other side, I have Jesus to kind of balance him out. Kratos is all fierce and aggressive, and Jesus is there, and he's like, take it easy, calm down.
That's cool, man. So you ever collect video games? You never got like get a God of War game graded? Or
that's a huge thing. Video games are huge. Graded video games are huge. Everybody is raving about them. It's a huge up and coming topic. It's a large investment. I've never personally graded a video game or bought a graded video game. I just never got around to it. But I'm starting to see that the sealed video game market, even on games like Fortnite, for example. I mean, modern recent stuff booming in value. Absolutely. I mean, it's going for stupid buku money. And I've never personally been in that realm, but do you care to fill me in and educate me, since I see you have some video games in your background there that are graded?
Yeah, it's come down harder than Pokemon has. As far as like they both hit the peak at the same time. They have the video games has come down significantly harder. It may reach those all-time highs again, but also some of those things that were selling were like grail things, like the $1 million games. Those are like grails that were selling. So I don't know, like the God of War game for the PS2, the original with the security seal, you could easily pick one of those up for like probably $400 for like a semi-decent grade. And like the high end, you could probably get like a mint one for a couple grand. So
wow, like maybe $4 or $5 grand.
Yeah, I'm not even sure exactly. I haven't followed it. I've been wanting one. I've been wanting the original God of War, so I've been kind of looking at a
What
lower
what's,
grade, like a 9.4 or something. But
what's the highest graded copy? A 9.8 or a 10?
yeah, basically a 9.8 for WADA is the high grade. There's a couple of tens in all of existence that are there, but pretty much never happened. So it's a 9.8, A plus plus. Yep.
So people rely on 9.8. And do you know if there's any God of Wars that are graded 9.8 for the original PS2? Or
Yeah, I'm not sure. Actually, they actually just officially released the pop report like this week. So I
and
could go look.
you want the first copy. You
Yeah,
want
it's got the security seal on it. Yep. Yep.
Wow. So that is that like one of your passionate childhood games or
Yeah, that one. Yeah, for sure. That's probably one of the ones I'm missing. Actually, from what I have, I have most of my really popular childhood games outside of like there's a Spyro the Dragon, but that's kind of expensive, and Crash Team Racing, which I
oh my favorite. It's my
completely whiffed on that in the last PWCC auction because I didn't participate like I should have. But
oh you didn't pay for it?
no, I wasn't. I was doing something else and I completely whiffed. Didn't even
Oh,
go
you
in.
didn't bid on you forgot to bid on it. You forgot
Yeah.
to bid on it. And
Yeah.
that's the PlayStation 1 version. That's the
Yep.
PlayStation 1.
Yep.
That's one of the best ones out there. I mean, PS2, I could just tell you offhand, Max Payne, Grand Theft Auto, State of Emergency, Manhunt, Hitman, Blood Money,
Manhunt. Yep.
Silent Assassin, Contracts. I mean, those were like the big titles, and God of War was in there along with SOCOM, U.S. Navy SEALs, and like a couple of other titles that
So
were
come.
popular
Yep.
in that time frame. I mean, I don't know. Are you like when you think sealed video games? Are you thinking PS2, PS3, PS4, PlayStation?
Yeah, I'm all over the place. So I'm looking not so much Nintendo. I have like the two Nintendo games I want. Those I played pretty much all the time. Ice
Super
hockey and
Mario 3, and then
ice
hockey.
hockey. Yep. Yeah, those are pretty much my go-tos. There was a couple other random ones, but if I turned the game on, I was playing one of those. But primarily, PlayStation 2 is like my hotspot. That and Xbox 360. Haven't really got too many 360 games, but I'd say PlayStation 2 is where I spent a mecca of my time, like a lot of it.
What was your very first PlayStation 2 game as a kid that you owned?
It's like a Star Wars pod, not pod racing, but you're in some type of you're flying. You're not really hack and slashing. I forgot. I don't even know what it's called. Starfighter, maybe Star Wars
Starfighter.
Starfighter.
My family bought me Metal Gear 2, Sons of Liberty,
Nice.
and I ended up like changing my mind or returning it or something, and I got Crash Bandicoot. I forgot. I think it was Wrath of. It wasn't Wrath of Cortex. It was the one that released for PlayStation 2. It
Yeah, I
was
don't even know.
PS2. I would have to look it up and tell you what it was. It was PlayStation 2 Crash Bandicoot, but it had a specific. It had Crash Bandicoot. I'll tell you right now. It was the title of it was. It was Crash Bandicoot: The Wrath of Cortex. Yeah, it was that one. That was the first my first
Hell yeah.
PlayStation 2 title. So that was really cool. That was what I ended up getting instead. And then I played Sons of Liberty afterwards. I don't know if were you ever a Metal Gear Solid fan or not.
The only one I ever played was number 3, and that game was epic. I was
Snake Eater. That was amazing. That was really amazing.
Hell yeah. No, big fan, big fan. I see Lorcana on your page, man. So let's talk
Yeah,
about it.
Lorcana is huge, man. Disney Lorcana D23 Expo 2022, 900 sets printed only. A major competitor with Magic the Gathering. As you can see that the formatting of the Lorcana cards is identical to Magic.
Which is yeah.
Can't tell you how many Mickey cards were printed, but I know for the sets of 6, 900 printed. Graded 2 PSA 10 sets. Booming market has come down a little bit. Hard to say if it's going to be sustainable for the future. Hard to say.
Yeah, is it launching 2023, I believe? Yeah.
All of 2023 is when the TCG comes out. First ever Disney TCG on the open market to be released. but the cards that were given out at the expo have the D23 logo at the very bottom and the first edition stamp at the very bottom, plus they're in holographic formatting. If they do re-release them, it is my knowledge that they will not print them again with the D23 Expo or the first edition logo or in holographic formatting, because if they do, then the market value would plummet. I mean, they're only booming because they're limited, but they are readily accessible on the open eBay market as we speak, and the prices have calmed down and stabilized a little bit.
So where, like, what could you buy a PSA 10 set? What is it? Any idea? What is it at for all?
I've been seeing some for 10 to 12,000. You know, like people are asking 20, 25,000, 20,000, 15,000. But I mean, graded and sold. I've personally sold individually.
Yeah.
I can tell you Elsa and Stitch are the top two. Elsa, 2,600, Stitch, 1,900, Captain Hook, 1,200, Mickey Mouse, 1,300. I could tell you Maleficent, 1,650. Cruella and Robin Hood I haven't sold individually yet, but those are also like in the 1,500 to 2,000 range. But a full set is within, like a raw set I've been seeing during the hype go for 7,000. It's come down to 5,000. PSA 10 set, more along the lines of 10,000 to 12,000.
Yeah, I can see that.
15, yeah.
Wow. No, that came. It's going to be interesting to see how that plays out for sure. Like when the actual boxes are released and the people start playing the games, or how they do distribution, or if they do distribution. Yeah, I'm curious. I would love to buy some, at least to rip some with my kids, because that would be freaking awesome. Yeah, that'll be cool, man.
How do you see it? Do you see it as like another MetaZoo or a cryptic, or do you see it as something completely new? And you know, like, how do you see it developing? How do you see it emerging and evolving? What do you think is going to come in the later years with the Disney Lorcana?
I think it's got 3 legs up on MetaZoo just because of what it is. The sports card collectors will be interested, which is where all the money is. So that's when Pokemon boomed, is when sports cards, people were getting into Pokemon, buying it. It was going to the boon. So they already are speculating on this, along with pretty much every trading card person in the world. And I don't know. I think it'll probably have a similar impact to what MetaZoo did when it first came out. It went straight to the moon, but it'll come down over time. It'll level out. But I think it's got, as long as the company that's doing it, which is not a standard, it's not Upper Deck, it's not Wizards of the Coast, it's some, I even remember the weird name of them. My friend Mason Cardinal Gaming says that company specializes in like puzzles and different stuff like that. So they're making a TCG for the first time. So it'll be interesting.
The company that printed it is actually I have it here, but I don't have it offhand. I just don't have the exact picture of I would have to look it up and tell you at a different time.
No, you're good.
I don't know too much about MetaZoo or like Flesh and Blood or Cryptic. I've seen it at the conventions. It's a very new, recent thing. Are you invested in it? Like, do you buy up on it? Is it your thing, or do you know anything about it, or
about any of MetaZoo, Cryptic, and all those?
Flesh and Blood?
Yeah, so I keep up with just general, like, are people playing it? I'm not invested into any of those games with sealed products.
Sure.
Rated cards. I actually just sold my Mothman. I had a PSA 9 Kickstarter that I just sold this week. Then I happened to pick it up really cheap on an auction, which is why I bought it. I didn't go looking for it. So, yeah, I don't know. I keep up with it, so I know the markets. Like, so when I can see something going for cheap on an auction, I can snap by it. But as far as like investing, getting deep into it, no. The Disney thing, I could see me buying sealed products, probably holding some, but primarily I would love to just rip some with the kids.
Yeah.
That would be really cool for me. I just did the Weiss Schwartz Pixar set, opened it with the family.
Oh, wow.
That was cool. They know all of the characters inside of all the cards, and it was pretty sweet.
Pixar is pretty big too. I saw that they recently released the new Puss in Boots, if I'm not
Oh, yep,
mistaken.
yep,
I
yep.
don't I didn't follow Disney. My wife is fanatic when it comes to Disney. She loves her Rugrats and she loves her Disney stuff. And we're watching all the Disney movies. And I got into Lorcana, and she's showing me the movie for Cruella. She's showing me Dalmatians. She's showing me Hook with Robin
Maleficent.
Williams. She's showing me all the original. I'm trying. We didn't. I don't think we got around to. Well, we watched Snow Queen. We watched Maleficent,
Yep.
with Angelina Jolie and the original. So she's introducing me to all this Disney stuff because she like Disney. She's more of an expert in it than I am. Since I got into the card game, she's showing me the movies, and I'm like, wow, I never seen this. I never seen that. Oh, this is why. Okay, Maleficent. Angelina Jolie turns into a monstrous dragon. And then she becomes
Yeah.
the villain. So like I'm learning all this as I'm going along the way. I had no knowledge about it prior, and it's very interesting that where all this stuff comes from. And a lot of the movies from the 50s, the Disney movies, a lot more provocative and explicit and vulgar than the content that they show today. It's much more reserved and conservative and humble and this and that. So I see a big difference from like the 50s era cartoons to today. Completely different dynamic, completely different platform. Very interesting take, I must say. But like it's so recent, the Lorcana stuff, right? Because like if I'm a first edition base collector and I want to collect vintage because I know that sustainability wise it's going to hold its value, Lorcana is so new and recent, right? And like, how do you feel that something so new and so recent can just blow up in a year, that it's so huge, it just skyrockets? These things were retailing at the D23 Expo for $50 for a booklet, and they were sold out by 9 a.m. and 300 sets were given out Friday, Saturday, and Sunday.
Yeah.
And by 9 a.m., that's when the expo opened. All 300 sets were gone, and it was limited to one set per person, and they were gone. And then people were reselling them at the convention for $800 to $1,000, and then all of a sudden they go to $5,000. How can something that is so new and so recent? I mean, could this be a craze? Could it be a fad? Could it be a phase? Could it be a hype? What do you see, happening? Like something so new and so recent, can it really hold its value, or is it bound to plummet? I don't think it is, because Disney's strong and powerful, but this is so new and so recent. So you got to have your doubts and your uncertainties too. How do you feel?
Yeah. So I think we kind of saw it with Lorcana. Like we saw it go shoot up, just like with like, and a good example would be like the Moonbrand in Pokemon. Recent pop PSA 10, the prices shot up to $1,500. They came down. Now they're leveling. Lorcana did almost the same thing. It was shot up to whatever the price was in a matter of a month, came down. Now it's leveling. So I think that's going to be the play for pretty much all modern things. Like when something modern drops, like the price, it's at an all-time high, usually then when it's dropping. And it might not see that price again until God knows when. It could be 10 years, 20 years. That's the way I feel about it. I think Lorcana is going to be there. I think it's going to do well just because of what it is. As long as they don't completely F it up.
Yeah.
So there could be like some catastrophe where everything's mappable from day one. Like there could be some really bad errors they make, and I hope they do a good job buttoning that up for
Well,
sure.
do you think that do you think between now and the fall of 2023, which is coming up right around the corner within about a year or so, do you think people will forget about Lorcana and then it's going to release in the fall of 23 and it's going to blow up and explode because everyone's going to remember those Lorcana cards from the D23 Expo in the fall of 2022?
Yeah, I'm not sure, man. It's interesting, and I think it's definitely got the I don't know.
It has potential. It has a lot of potential. Like, don't get me wrong, Disney has a very strong backbone. They have a very strong backbone. If you go to Disney right now, you need to spend about $1,000 just to have a good time.
Yep.
DreamWorks Studios, Pixar. You go to Disneyland, you go to Disney World, you go to California, you go to Florida, you're spending $1,000. Before you could spend maybe $200-300. Now you're spending $1,000, and that's at the minimum just to have a decent time. So their prices have shot up in general, like with the experience.
Yep.
Universal Studios, the whole shebang. So Disney has a backbone. I mean, and it's American. It's not Japanese like Pokemon. This is America we're talking about here. So the backbone's there, but it's expensive. But like some people can't even afford to go to Disney because of how expensive it's gotten. So like the value will be there. Will people be willing to pay the money for it? You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah, it'll be supply and demand. Just straightforward. So not lots of speculation until it happens.
It's like very up and down, wishy-washy, flippy-floppy. It's kind of hard to gauge it approximately. Like some people might be willing to risk $5,000 and hone in on the Lorcana market. Some people might be like, most of the people that I've spoken to are like, I want to buy the set raw because they wanted to grade PSA 10 so they could flip for a profit. Nobody really wanted to pay the PSA 10 prices unless you're selling on eBay and auctioning off. But like most of the people in the community were like, I only want them raw. I only want them raw. And they didn't want to buy graded because they no longer had interest in it because they couldn't make any money on it. But if they bought them raw, they figured they'd get them cheap enough to the point where they can grade them and then flip them. And a lot of people were telling me, I was getting a feedback from the community that it's a pump and dump. And I'm just like, it's so hard to tell. It's so hard. Is it another MetaZoo? Is it another Cryptic or Flashing Blood? It's too recent of a development for you to approximately gauge what it is or what it is not. What do you think? Do you think that sums it up pretty well?
Yeah. No, yeah, exactly. You summed it up. Exactly. So it'll
Sorry,
be
I'm talking a lot.
No, you're good, man. You're good. So we've been talking about Disney a little bit. You going to Orlando Collecticon in February, or any plans?
Actually, we were going to the next event. Me and my wife were supposed to go to is in Woodbridge, New Jersey. It's the card show. I don't know if it's called the Woodbridge card show, but I know that January 8th. There's going to be kind of like Big Apple Trading, because we just got back from Big Apple Trading in New York City at the New Yorker Hotel this past weekend. They had a trading card event as well as the after party, the anime after party, and they told us about Woodbridge in January 8th. We've never been to Jersey, but you're saying there's a Collecticon in February in Orlando, Florida. That would be nice to go to. Are you going to be there?
Yeah, I'm going to that one. Probably 3 of them. I think there's 7 of them in 2023. So that'll be
wow.
Yeah, that'll be one I'm going to.
There's 7 like in the entire year.
7 conventions throughout southern and western United States.
Southern,
not really northern or eastern.
And the one in New York City is in like Jacob Javits Center. I know they have like or is that Comic-Con? I might be.
Yeah, probably Comic-Con. So yeah, the closest thing to New York City is going to be Charlotte, North Carolina, which is the East Coast.
For a Collecticon, right?
Yep.
That's going to be the Charlotte, North Carolina, you said? And when is that one going to be?
Great question. I want to say it was sometime in the summer or something like that, yeah.
So, I mean, we just got back from Miami TCG. That was in June of 2022. Are you familiar with the Miami TCG convention?
Yep. Yeah, had some friends. Pallet Town went, correct?
Yeah, he was there. I saw him. Pokeju, he was there as well. I actually, my friend is the one that invited me. My friend Eric, Pokemonster 89. Shout outs to him. Him and his dad did a phenomenal job running the convention, as well as I saw my good buddy Charlie there. Dulce Adventures or Dulce Pokemon. I don't know if you know him. They were there as well, and it was just hanging out. It was a great time. The food was great. They had beer. They had like sandwiches. Like it was really good. So then I went to the National after that in Atlantic City. Have you ever been to the National?
I have not, but it was in your neck of the woods.
Yeah, that was cool. That was interesting. It was mostly sports. Yeah. Pokemon is kind of like hidden in between. You have to find it. There's like hundreds of tables, and you have to like literally search for Pokemon. Then I went to Big Apple Trading, and I think that was mostly Pokemon. And I went to Big Apple Trading again, and now in Woodbridge they have only Pokemon. So that's like you can't miss looking for what you want. As opposed to like having to go through sports cards and stuff. And now you said a Collecticon in Orlando. See, I'm just now in my 30s, just now getting to all these collecticons and these Comic-Cons. I've never personally been to one. I've never been to a Comic-Con. I've never been to a Collecticon. And me and my wife, we're planning on going. I know that one of them you have to like dress up. Is that the Comic-Con that you have to dress up?
You don't have to, but yeah, a lot of people do.
What's the difference? I know one is mainly more for like collectibles. Can you please shed some light? What's the difference between those two?
Yep. So Collecticon is basically there's a bunch of vendors. It's like the National, but for not modern media, but collectibles essentially. There's literally Lego figures. There's actual Legos. There's Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, Magic. Some sports is growing slowly, unfortunately. They could stick to their own shows, my opinion. But
yeah, they should.
So it's literally just all these cards. Every table, almost every table has Pokemon cards, and there's a bunch of tables.
Really?
It's if you're going to look hunting for stuff, like talk to Chris Palatown, ask his opinion, what he thought about TCG Con versus Collecticon, because he's done both. But I think he would say Collecticon was much more of a banger. So as far as just turnout and all of that, they got a pretty good show put together.
And they have vintage and modern for collecting.
Oh, yeah.
But then Comic-Con is different. Comic-Con is a different.
Yeah, Comic-Cons where you'll have actual celebrity. Oh, I guess Collecticon will too, but it's more niche for kind of the nerds. But Comic-Con also is a bunch of nerds, but it could be TV shows, or they could be a new Magic the Gathering release they're announcing, a whole bunch of different stuff. You could actually have tournaments, Yu-Gi-Oh tournaments, Pokemon tournaments they used to do, at least some at Gen Con in Indianapolis. And it's just I've never been to one, but just speaking from experience, a bunch of my friends have gone, and it's just a good time. All these different companies getting together, and there are vendors there as well, but it's not as many and centralized. And yeah.
Have you ever heard of Dragon Con?
No.
Because that's another thing. It's like Dungeons and Dragons, Dragon Con. They have all these different names. From what I'm getting is Collecticon is like the collectibles aspect of it, modern, vintage, and like buying, selling, trading. The Comic-Con is more like promoting, dressing up, more of a show type of atmosphere.
Yeah, I think there's panels, like celebrity panels, and yeah, there's a whole bunch of stuff. But I know each one's a little bit different. They'll have different people at different ones.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's definitely a lot of celebrities. Like at the one local here, we had a bunch of the Walking Dead characters, the actual people from the show here.
Wow.
So yeah.
Have you ever been to the D23 Expo in California, in Long Beach?
Never heard of it until this year when Lorcana dropped.
Yeah, that's a big thing. The D23. I mean, I wasn't there, but I knew people that were, and that's like a huge thing. And they have all these expos now and these shows. And I even locally they have the Brooklyn Game Lab, and they have a Sip and Play. And me and my wife, actually, if you look at my page, we went to Sip and Play, and you pay $8 for a table for you, and then $8 for the other person. And I brought out my Pokemon game mat from Pokemon Center from 2004, and I made a deck for myself. I made like a fire and fighting deck for myself. I made a lightning and psychic deck for her using vintage cards. You know, we shuffled them up. We rolled the dice. We flipped the coins. We had the burn markers, the damage counters, the poison markers, and we played as if we were back in the day. And we only played with vintage. We didn't do any modern.
Yeah.
And it was so cool. And then, they have like paninis and salads and like bubble tea. So, you can sip and play. It's really a great thing. And Brooklyn's pretty known for that. Also, there's also, I'm going to be going out to more of these things. But now, are you into sports cards at all? Like, do you do sports cards at all?
The local Detroit legends, essentially.
Meaning like basketball, baseball, football, Detroit, or
pretty much, yep.
And hockey, and but not soccer. You don't do soccer.
No.
So you only do Detroit teams. So like Detroit Pistons, the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, I would love to have like a Michael Rookie or some of those heater cards for sure. Like just like the stat, like those cards are just beautiful. Like just to have some of those. The Gretzky Rookie, never played in Detroit, but I'd love to have that. the Michael rookie, and just anything like that. Something that's just a statement.
Like the 1952 Mickey Mantle SGC 9.5 that sold for $10 million at auction. Craziest thing I've ever seen in my life, because it's SGC, but for sports, believe it or not, SGC is huge and booming, which kind of leads me up to my next subject here that we haven't touched on yet. How do you feel about Mike Baker authenticated NBA silver diamond, gold diamond, and black diamond? I think it's stupid money. I mean, crazy money. You need to pay $5,000 for an annual membership just to be able to grade your cards with black diamond formatting. People are putting these silver and gold and black diamonds on their BGS 10 pristine Typhlosions, asking 175 grand. I mean, it's outrageous. It tells you that your 10 is really a 10. I think it's over the top. What do you think?
Who is he? Mike Baker?
So I think he used to work for PSA or SGC. If you type in like a card, you type in Pokemon PSA 10 and you type in MBA, like a Masters of Business Administration, but it's really Mike Baker authenticated. He puts a diamond. There's a diamond on the card, on the slab up top, and it basically tells you that your 10 is really a 10. Like it verifies
second verification,
the validity of the 10. And there's 3 different colored diamonds, and to have the membership is crazy expensive. And basically, like, it supposedly gives your card an additional premium that I would never pay for, but it's starting to become a thing, and I'm seeing more and more of these Mike Baker cards pop up.
Yeah, I think it's bullshit, to be honest.
Thank you for verifying my feelings.
I saw an SGC 10 in a PWCC or a Golden with his stamp on there. Yeah, and the back of it had whitening. I'm like, no.
The Charizard that was just on auction with SGC or with PWCC, it was SGC 10 with a silver diamond.
Yep.
And the bid was up to 85 grand.
Yeah, that's the one then. Yep. It was
just
recent.
Because he put his stamp on there. But then you looked at the back of it and you saw white spots.
Exactly. Yep.
That's terrible. I mean, what good is your stamp of approval or your authenticity verification, your this is a 10 verification, when those are the types of problems that you encounter? What good is that?
SGC themselves are a little bit more lenient on Pokemon cards. My experience having graded some with them. So you got the SGC slab on a Pokemon card, and then you got a guy grading the Pokemon card while it's encapsulated, and it's got whitening. So I don't know. It's
terrible. So if you had the 4 companies, right? If you had PSA, Beckett, CGC, SGC, those are like we can agree that those are the big 4, right?
Yeah. Yep. For sure.
And pretty much the only 4 like that are in the lead of relevance here.
Yep.
If you had to categorize and you had to order from first to last and say who you love grading with the most, for me it would be PSA, Beckett, CGC, SGC. What would be your order?
Depends on the card. So if you hand me a Gem Mint possible PSA 10 first edition base set card, it's going to go to PSA. If the card is like a 9, like I know it's not going to get a 10, I'll send it to CGC because they're a little bit more generous. I could get a 9.5. I could squeak a little bit higher grade out of it. Beckett is bottom of the barrel for me, below SGC, even just because I know SGC is generous on their grades. I've cracked a bunch of CGC and resubmitted to them and upped decent grades. But yeah, the PSA CGC thing is always depends on the card. If like I'm sending out like a 450 card submission to PSA, these are all going to PSA because they are chasing 10s. Like these are all really good chance at getting 10s. And if I wanted to get wrecked, I would send them to CGC because they have like a 10-ish% gem rate. So
they're more stricter.
Yep, exactly.
And then Beckett is bottom of the barrel, you said? Beckett?
Yeah, just because I've sent one submission to them, Gem Mint Japanese cards, all 9.5s, like all quad pluses, 9.5s in every subgrade, a couple 10s in a couple spots, but no 9s subgrades, and just completely terrible experience. So
what did they give you? What did they give you? Like 8s?
It was all 9.5s. Every single card was a 9.5.
Oh, and you were expecting 10 pristines.
Yep.
Like,
yep.
You were hoping for 10s and you didn't get a single 10.
Yep.
And then SGC you would put third. Like you like that you're a little bit more flexible with SGC.
Yeah, I respect them. They do yield like sports. Like I sell Pokemon and Yu-Gi-Oh and SGC slabs. Usually no problem if it's a liquid card. If it's a Blastoise, Charizard, Venusaur, Dark Magician, Blue Eyes, Red Eyes. Like if it's a liquid card, it's selling because sports card people did dabble and that they highly respect SGC and they'll buy those cards all day.
And then also like because I know you love your black labels and you love your 10 pristines. I mean, Beck, like when it comes to the premium, I think I saw a video that Probstein 123 was like, oh well, what if PSA came out with a pristine label or a black label or something? I'm like, wow, then all the gem mint stuff would just plummet. I'm just gonna put my charger in here. Sorry. And then all the gem mint would plummet, but the black label holds the premium. The 10 pristine holds the premium, and it always will, always has, and it does, and it always will over the 10 gem mint for sure. I feel like PSA 10 is just easier if you're doing a registry, if you're doing a set, because it's going to be hard to find all the Beckett stuff out there because the pops are way lower on Beckett than they are on PSA. That's a given. But like you said, CGC is another go-to option, and SGC is more lenient and more generous. But here's one thing that confuses me a little bit, right? So PSA just has a 9 and a 10. CGC and Beckett have the 9.5 gem mint, the 10 pristine, and then black label perfect. Okay, and they have the same subgrades kind of categorized in the same order. Okay, fine, we can agree to that. Now, SGC, their 9.5 is mint plus as a gem mint. And that can throw a lot of people off because people will see the number. See, like I know a 9.5 in Beckett and CGC is gem mint, which is what you would think is the equivalent of a PSA 10, even though the market value is way different because the number 10 trumps the 9.5. But now if you have 9.5, 9.5, gem mint, and then you have another company, 9.5, mint plus, that is so confusing. It is so confusing. And then SGC has the 10 gem mint. And if I remember correctly, they had like a 10 pristine back in the day that was like a gold label or a blue label or like go purple, violet, whatever it was. Confusing as can be because they changed the colors in the recent years. I know there's the 9.5 mint plus, the 10 gem mint, then you have the 10 pristine, which is the gold.
The gold, yep.
There is no black label. That gold is the highest you will get.
They're all black labels.
No black labels, right?
No, yeah. But they're black tuxedo, but yeah.
Right, but not like the strip.
Yeah.
So like that, so that their highest grade is 10 pristine. So but there's no like perfect. There's no 410s. Like so unless you want to put a Mike Baker diamond on there, spice things up a little bit for yourself. Just kidding. That's like the most like highest scenario I can think of if I had to like go above and beyond. But like it should be consistent across the board. I think SGC, if they want to get in the race properly, I think it should be universal. I think 9.5 should be gem mint and subgrades should align. Then you should have a 10 pristine and a 10 perfect. This whole 9.5 mint plus really throws me off. It really turns my stomach sour. It throws me off. It's confusing and it's misleading because you see 9.5 and you get all excited, but I'm like, wait a minute, mint plus? So is it gem or is it not gem? Or you know what I mean? Like I just don't like that whole like that 9.5 should mean the same thing across the board. It should be a universal standard. SGC needs to get their stuff together and they need to come up with a universal. Everything should be universal. Like CGC says, CGC universal grade. Make it a universal grade. Make it a universal grade. If you're not going to do what PSA does, where you have a clear difference between a 9 and a 10, and you're going to follow that same formatting, if you can't cross over because of bias and companies say, oh, no, we don't want to take your company's slab and cross it over to ours because this is our label, that's their label, at least make it a universal standard. What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's just different lingos. So I think you can have some 9.5s from SGC that'll probably be PSA 10s or Beckett 10s. It's so in between at that point. When you're a 9.5 or a 10, it's so marginal. It depends on the grader, what they wanted to assign it to. So I feel like there's a lot of overlap between those grades. And them calling it something different, it doesn't really. You got to buy the card, not the grade. So it's if I'm looking to transfer something from a SGC 9.5 into a PSA 10, I'm not even looking at the label. Will get me to click on the picture, but then I'm going to zoom in, look at the back, look at the front as much as I can, and not be looking at the label. They just got me to click. It's like a thumbnail essentially.
And you're definitely cracking that thing. You're definitely cracking that thing.
Yeah.
There's no way you're not cracking it. I don't care who you are. You can't just, if you think you're going to send it in case, good luck. But they'll get your attention to click on it, like you said. But you got to crack it because you're going to examine that. You're going to check for print lines. You're going to make sure the centering's decent. PSA is more lenient on centering. Beckett's more strict on centering. PSA is more stricter on surface and corners. I feel like Beckett's stricter on centering and like edges. They're more leaner on corners and surface. But you're going to have to crack it, and that's going to get your attention. But the issue is with market value, with buying and selling and trading. People just won't value the 9.5 SGC like they do a PSA 10. Like a PSA 9 sometimes sells for more than a Beckett 9.5 quad minus or an SGC 9.5 or a CGC 9.5 because like of reputation and time in the game. And I just feel like you're just better off cracking and sending it to the company that you want it to be, for that market value, because market value is very unclear when you have these companies like this Mint Plus, like all this lingo is so open to interpretation. It is so open to interpretation. One person might value it higher, one person might value it lower, but the general market, I've seen a video on YouTube. The guy sent in 9.5s, Gem Mint 9.5s, and he sent them for crossover to PSA 9 minimum grade. He put minimum grade PSA 9. He didn't even want the 10. He already had the 9.5. He already had the other higher grade. He put minimum grade 9, and he got denied on all of them. They just sent it right back to him. So I'm like, so what good is the validity of that 9.5 Gem Mint grade when you take it to PSA for a lower grade and you're willing to settle up for a lower grade? You're willing to take a hit.
Yeah.
They won't even let you. So what does that make them? An 8.5 in PSA or an 8? He's literally telling you it's okay for you to lower my grade from a 9.5 to a 9, and they still denied him. So like that, to me, that's just like, what do you think of that? I mean, that's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah, the dude got absolutely wrecked. Like that would suck. I'd be so pissed. I'd be like, really, dude? Like
it's just it's just so hard to decipher, man. It's so hard to decipher.
100%. I got a question for you. We talked about obviously first edition base, Lorcana, your chase of some of these different cards. What is any collection goals outside of like the Charizard Chansey, PSA 10? Like what's on the horizon for you?
In terms of completing the first edition base set and PSA 10, the Big 16 and the 17 through 102, which I already own. Outside of that main collecting goal, I look to acquire other WotC BGS 10s. As you remember, AMT Supply, aka Tim Nolan.
Yep.
He had the BGS 10 market, and you got in on that, on those Zapdoses. You remember that auction from it wasn't Heritage, it was Golden, I think.
Golden.
It was Golden, and it was February of 2022. And this guy, I mean, he went off to the military. He auctioned off everything, 95% of the BGS 10 market. I'm talking Metal Energies, Hydras, Kingdras. I'm talking Genesis. I'm talking, Gym Heroes, Gym Challenge Team. I mean, the works. And you saw the Dark Charizard sell for 17 grand and the Pikachu Gold Star sell for 16 grand. And we both were able to get in on that market, as you remember.
Yep.
Now, when you auction off 81 of those, everyone's going to get a little piece of the cake. Everyone's going to get a little piece of the pie. I mean, some people more than others because it's too much to buy out in one shot for the average collector.
Yeah.
Like I get a slab or two, you get a slab or two. So my goal is to acquire BGS 10s. And my buddy Low Popping's got a bunch of them, and they're on his page. They're listed right now. You can buy them. He's got the Metal Energy. He's got the Pokemon Center. Recently, the Togetic was reviewed, and Beckett, as you know, gave it a black label, which was amazing. Big turnaround.
Yeah, Pokemon Network.
Yeah, two. He was able to get it from low popping, and two hollow Watsy, Blossom and Togetic now black labels. I mean, huge milestones, epic accomplishments. You can't find them. It's just next to impossible. Tidal Dreams got a couple of them. A couple of these big names in the community got some. So I would say just keep on buying BGS 10s English. Like that's what I'm gonna do. That's like I don't care if it's Quilava. I don't care if it's the Celebi promo that's listed for $510. I don't care if it's the Quilava that's listed for $700, but only in English. And I wish more would pop up, but I think that whatever already exists is already what is bound to exist in the future. I don't think there's going to be like another massive wave graded that someone's going to open up, some Genesis and Discovery boxes. And I don't think there's going to be another BGS 10 Umbreon, other than the one that's listed for 40 grand on PWCC. I don't think there's going to be more of what we already have. I think if the pops are low, I mean, they're going to keep these pop reports tight. They're going to keep them low. If more stuff gets added all of a sudden, then that would like lower the value. It would diminish it. Now, CGC might grade 10s on those same exact copies, on those same exact cards, but it won't be the same as Beckett. Like I'm strictly Beckett. I'm strictly a Beckett guy when it comes to the gold label and quad or better. So that's really my goal, is to build that Beckett collection, make it very strong. I was looking before this, I was looking at doing a Beckett set of Gym Heroes and Gym Challenge for the hollows and quad or better. It's so much easier to just go out and buy a PSA 10 set because you could put together a Gym Heroes or a Gym Challenge hollow set out of PSA 10s overnight because they're on the market.
Oh yeah.
You can't do that with Beckett in quad or better gold label, 9.5, 10 black label. You can't do that the same way because you can't find them because they're not there because the pops are so much lower. So like less people have them, such a fewer population, such a smaller population, harder to find. I mean, I like things that are harder to obtain and more challenging and difficult to obtain. And, whether the price, it might be less, it might be more. The point is it's an interesting goal because it puts you to work. You got to get, you got to get to your hunting and your gathering, and you got to find these things and you're going to discover them. Sometimes people won't be willing to sell them. And the thing is, you got to be lucky enough that if you find it, that person's willing to sell it to you, because you might find a guy that has it and no one else got one and he won't let it go. He won't give it up because he's the only person that has it. So he can kind of dictate his own price on it, whoever he or she is, So my whole thing is I like things that are hard to find, that people don't want to give up. And I like to lock them in. And once I have them, they're just for me. Like that's my angle here. I mean, what are some of your collecting goals?
Yeah, similarly, it's Zapdos is always one I'm going after. So I'm working for that species in 10s, whether it's a Beckett, PSA, or CGC 10. Doesn't really matter to me. Just working towards the 10 set. I'll take that one from you. I'll give you something nice now.
That's the
That's nice. That's the only Watsy hollow I need in a 10 for Zapdos. I have it in a 9 for my 9.
Zapdos. You love Zapdos so much, don't you?
Yeah, he's my guy. Yeah, him and Diglett. Yeah. Hell yeah.
I know you're a Zapdos like fanatic, so Zapdos is definitely your guy. I mean, that you do have something very special, and that's that black label. You have the that black label Zapdos is, I mean, even though it's population 2, you literally have the elite of that card. And do you know who has the second one? Do you know who has the other one?
No, but I know like Rusty TCA Gaming has like a brick of those.
Wow.
So I don't know if he has the corrected artist brick, which is what mine's graded as, but he's got bricks of those.
I have here Illustrator Naoyo Kimura. Is that the corrected or is that the pre-correct?
That's the corrected one.
And your black label is the same one, yeah?
Yep.
So what about the one before that? The one that's
Aoki. Aoki was the name, the artist, illustrator, and that's what they put on like CGC slabs. They'll put Aoki error because it actually wasn't Aoki who drew the card.
Oh, so that's the one. That's the previous one.
Yeah, that's the really common one. There's tons
So
of those ones.
he didn't draw that. But they put his name on it anyway.
Exactly.
And what who's to say or not to say that the other black label has the other artist's name on it? Like let's say it has Aoki and yours has Kimura, and then you have both of them. How cool would that be?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure likely because they weren't. I looked at the cert numbers; they weren't graded near the same time. So odds are it's the Aoki, but who knows?
Would you like to own both of them? I mean,
cool. It would be cool, especially if it was the Aoki and they were different cards. That'd be cool.
It's so amazing because we want to know who has these cards. How come these cards haven't popped up? I checked the Beckett Pop report, and I generated a list of the highest graded 9.5s from the base set. And there's a bunch of quad plus 2s out there. There's a Alakazam 10 pristine. Where's that card? Who has it? Does King Gary have it? I don't know where it is. Somebody probably wants 50 G's for it. The Blastoise, there's a quad 2. The Chansey, there's a quad plus 2. There's about 7 quad plus 2s. 7. It's Blastoise, Chansey. Then I know that there's a Charizard that's a quad 2 because if there's a 10 pristine, I saw that there was a quad 2 as well. Clefairy only goes up to quad 1. That's 3 so far. You have trying to think. There's a Gyarados quad plus 2, so that's 4. And then you have not Hitmonchan. Number 7. Number 8 is Machamp. There's a quad 2, so that's 5. And then there's 2 more, and that's the Mewtwo. There's a quad 2, and the Nidoking has a quad 2. So there's 7 quad plus 2s. And I've only had the privilege of owning one of them, which was the Mewtwo.
Yeah.
The other 6, nowhere to be found. Nowhere to be found. I'm thinking, did people cross them to PSA 10? Whether they cracked them or they sent them in case, you never see these cards on the open market.
Yeah.
And let's say they did crack them and they got PSA 10. God bless them. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. I'm happy for you. If you got a PSA 9, that's terrible. I don't know what to say for that. I don't know what to tell you at that point. That sounds like a personal problem. but
for sure.
But if someone out there, and this message goes out to the whole world, if someone out there has the Beckett quad plus 2 cards from the original base set, please come to light and reveal yourself and tell us who you are, because I would love to have a conversation with you about Beckett quad plus 2. That's something I'm really jonesing for. And, I have a couple buddies of mine that are close that really love the Beckett 9.5s. They just love them. And obviously for 10 pristines, if you know this, the base set, there's only 3 hollows 10 pristines from base set. And that's Alakazam, Machamp, which you saw at Golden Auction go off at $8,000, and Charizard, which Logan Paul has one and King Gary's got the other 2. So there's literally 3 characters. There's other non-hollow characters like Sandshrew and Machop and Bulbasaur and Squirtle, but I'm talking the big 16.
Yep.
Now I don't know where they are, man. I really don't know where they are, but I would love to know who's got the quad 2s, who's got the 10 pristines. Please come to light. Please reveal. Cool. Show us who you are, because I would love to have a conversation with you.
Yeah, that's what happens when you get to these type of cards. Like it gets into collectors' hands. Not all of them are making YouTube videos like myself, so they get into collectors' hands and they get tucked away under the mattress, and it's see in another lifetime.
Passed down to the kids and the grandkids and a lot of people are low key and they don't want to go public with the subject matter. They just don't want to. They'd rather just stay humble about it and low key. They don't want to draw extra unnecessary attention, to themselves. But I feel like the community is a big enough place where, people like me and you, whether it's on here or it's on Discord or on YouTube or on IG Live, or now obviously, Whatnot is huge. And the forum, the E4 forum, There's just so many outlets that people can talk about what they love, and
Yeah.
you love Pokemon so much. This is a lifestyle. This is a side business, a side hustle. For some people, it's a main hustle. For some people, this is their career. I'm a retired law enforcement officer. I'm an ex-law enforcement officer. Currently, I work, in transit, but that's my bread and butter. It's my lucrative, career, and then I have a side career, and I love Pokemon. So it's literally a side business. It's a hobby. It's a collection. It's an investment hobby, but I do it on the side because I love it. But you always, like for some people, this is all they have. Like,
Yeah.
or for some people, it's their side business. Like I have my main career, you know what I mean? And I just do this because I love it. Just like my wife loves Disney and she loves Rugrats, I love Pokemon. So, you do this like kind of like you love it, but it's an investment hobby. It's kind of like a career profession, but it's on the side. But you also love it, and it's an investment hobby, and it's recreational. How do you see it, like in your eyes?
Yeah, it's basically that. It's a hobby to me. Buying, selling, collecting, it's all intermingled within each other. Making these YouTube videos is a huge passion of mine now, which started 2-ish years ago. Thoroughly enjoying my time. So whatever it is, whether I'm looking at cards, I'm making a video, or however I'm interacting in this market and with people, I am enjoying my time right now. So it's been awesome.
YouTube. I mean, pandemic times, PokeRev, box breaks. I mean,
Yeah.
This stuff took off. Man, people went back in their albums, childhood addicts, whatever. They went into their basements. They pulled their stuff out. They started, pandemic, got nothing better to do. No one's going to work. Everyone's staying home, and just it took off. And then Logan Paul and everything. So, and with social media and everything, it literally took off. And I feel like it's going to continue going strong. And I love the fact that you can have me on the air. I love the fact that I can, give you my input and share my thoughts and my opinions on the subject matter. I'm very grateful that you were able to bring me on, and I'm very appreciative, and I really thank you for it. What would be great is if they can bring back vintage tournaments that we had as kids with our era cards.
Yeah.
Do them today, like me and my wife battled, with original playmats, damage counters, everything. If they can bring that back. So like at all these card events, people are selling raw albums. I would just go out and buy out all the raw albums and have all the raw inventory I can have that I can play with, and I can battle with. And you got your slab stuff. Like I sold off my childhood stuff that was in binders. Then you get into slabs and investing. 2 separate collections, man. 2 separate collections.
Yeah, Yu-Gi-Oh does something like that where they actually respect some of the older formats, and in like their YCS tournaments, they'll actually have like this Time Wizard format from like 2005 where you can only play decks around that ban list, and there's like another 2008 or 2010 Edison format, and it's pretty cool. So I hope that would be cool to have Pokemon have retro stuff at some of these regionals and national events.
Did you battle? Did you participate in the tournaments as a kid? Like, were you ever
just Yu-Gi-Oh?
Yeah, right, Yu-Gi-Oh. You did say that, yeah.
Yep.
They have all these banned lists, and then this gets banned, and then that gets banned, and you can't, like, I think Imperial Order got banned, or Acts of Despair for Magic.
Yep.
Like all these cards, like, and you have to keep up with it, and you have to modify your deck. Same thing with Magic. Current modern stuff getting printed day in and day. Like, do you stay in touch with the modern Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic stuff as well as the Pokemon, or
not Magic, but I am keeping up with modern Pokemon for sure, and definitely modern Yu-Gi-Oh as well. So I'm not really investing or buying tons of sealed. I did buy a bunch of one Pokemon set recently in the last 6 months, but it's not a normal play for me at all. But I definitely keep up with it, and it's booming.
Are you playing currently in tournaments or no?
Not in tournaments, but I have a modern deck in rotation. I have a modern Yu-Gi-Oh deck in rotation. I have vintage Yu-Gi-Oh decks that I can play with my friends. So sure. I love it.
And has the game also taken place online as well as in person, or like is it a virtual thing these days, or?
Yeah, Pokemon 100% is. Yu-Gi-Oh has like a new game, Master Duel, that just came out.
Cool.
and it's like its own format. It's not like a simulator for current formats, which kind of is trash. But yeah, there's outs. Different websites like Dueling Book where you could actually simulate modern gameplay, which is pretty cool for Yu-Gi-Oh. But
You also mentioned earlier that the video game market has come down. So was it at a peak at some point, and now it's like relatively cheaper? Because I really wasn't following it.
yeah,
I mean, we're talking the past 2-3 years, from like 2020 or so. You've been in the video game loop this whole time. I really haven't been in the loop, so I really don't know. You said it come down a lot, so it did hit a peak. I'm assuming.
yeah, same, basically around the same time, maybe just after Pokemon, it hit a peak for sure, but it came down screaming down. The Pokemon games came down the fastest actually, which is pretty weird. Those went to the moon pretty quick, and then
Wow.
also came down because all the people buying the cards were getting into the video games, and obviously some of the sports card people were seeing what's going on, and there's a lot of big money players in it. And it's like I said, there's Heritage. Are you familiar with Heritage Auctions?
Heritage Auctions as well as Golden, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, Golden also. Yeah, the Golden does a bunch of video game auctions along with Heritage. So check them out. You could you might see some gems in there that you might slip into the collection.
And you also do comic books as well, or no?
No, zero comics. I'm still waiting on my first CGC like magazine submission from like a year and a half ago. I feel like it's pretty slow process.
I submitted like the September Duelist magazine with Eevee, Vaporeon, Jolteon, and Flareon. I submitted that to CGC, as well as like some of the original Pokemon magazines from Tops, Top Deck Entertainment, or Top, whatever it was, not Tops Chrome, but the original ones from 1999.
Yep.
But I never really got into it. As far as video games, the only thing I remember was like a record sale. It was either the Zelda game or it was like a Mario game, and it was like 3-point-something mil or 2-point-something million. And it was a black and red game. The game was all black with like red writing on it. I think it might have been a Mario game. It's the top record sale. Are you familiar with?
Yes, I think it was Super Mario 64 and a 9.8 A++.
Yes, yes, 8++, 9.8 Super Mario 64, and I think the sale was 3 million something, or
it was either 2.2 or 3.2. I'm drawing a blank. Something
right, but 2 or 3 mil. And when you say A++, because 9.8 is the grade, what's the A++ stand for? I'm not.
Yeah, the 9.8 is the grade on the actual cardboard.
On the cardboard.
Yep, and then the letter grade is the seal.
The foil,
literally the plastic seal around it.
So they grade the cardboard and the foil separately. Isn't that amazing? Wow.
Yeah. So the possible grades you can get for the seal is like A++, A+, B+, B, and then from there it's like just I think C+ or C is like the last.
So that 9.8 with the A++ is the highest possible grade. And I think a 10 is pretty much impossible at that point.
Yeah. Just so like comic books, you can get a 10 on a comic book, but essentially 9.8 is like a PSA 10.
Right, because a 10 is like, it's immaculate. It's impossible. It's just not like 9.8 is perfection. As much as you wanted to see 10, the 9.8 is achieved perfection at that point. And you have to be reasonable with your expectations, because you're just getting the 9.8. You're not getting the 10. So that one is the best graded copy, and there's only one in the world, right? There's only one in the world.
I don't think so. I want to say there may be another one. If not another one, then there's definitely a VGA 95, like uncirculated, which is basically the same thing. That being uncirculated means it was pulled out of the case and went directly to grading. So
wow.
Those exist. So I would say there's other copies. Like it was probably they spent way too much money.
But that one went for way too much, right? That one went for way too much.
That's a lot of money. That's a lot of cheddar.
Someone paid it, right? Someone paid it, granted. But then I think the second most expensive was the Zelda, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I'm not too familiar with that sale, but yeah, I remember there was a really big sale.
And my other question, because you obviously have more knowledge on the subject matter than I do, my other question was the companies that do the grading of the video games themselves. You said one is VGA, and what are the main ones? Like what?
WADA is basically PSA
Okay.
for that comparison, and then VGA was the only other show in town. Actually, they came out before WADA. So VGA's been around for a long time, but their website was like Beckett's. It was not
Yeah.
amazing. You still submit via paper.
Yeah, it's
So
terrible.
they kind of got left in the dust by WADA, who
Yeah.
stepped in and is a lot more updated. And so WADA is getting premium pricing, but then CGC just started grading video games like this quarter.
Wow.
So they have the same label as their comics and the cards. It's the bluish label,
Sure.
and that'll be interesting. I feel like CGC video games will fit in kind of like in Pokemon. They'll be the number 2 ish. Like I feel like CGC is definitely it's way outpacing Beckett as far as cards being graded. For
Yeah.
sure. Like no chance. I feel
Way
like
more volume. Way more volume.
they're doing more than PSA in some modern sets. Like I've been looking at some of the pops, so they're doing crazy numbers for Pokemon, but I feel like they're gonna do that similar in video games. Well, CGC and WADA will be battling for the top spot eventually.
So VGA was around longer than WADA, like Beckett was around longer than PSA because 1986 versus 1991, but the performance was better on WADA, and that's how they were able to monopolize and take over. So wow,
Yep. Yeah.
that's pretty amazing. Wow.
It's gonna be a hell of a ride these next couple of years, man. Just seeing all these different grading companies and the auction houses, how it all plays out. It's gonna be a hell of a ride.
It would be nice if they had like a universal standard for crossovers where like one company can respect another company's label, and like if you like a certain slab more than another slab, that you can just directly cross over because it's a universal standard. But I don't ever think that would happen. I
No.
don't ever think that would happen.
No, basically it'd be like collectors would have to start a monopoly, and they probably don't want to do that. So they'd have to buy the other company, and it'd get messy.
It like people are going to have their preferences, and it's you can't expect the same market value. You cannot put the same price on a CGC 95 quad as a BGS 95 quad. You just can't. And people are saying in the next 5 years they're going to be worth the same. I 100% disagree.
Yeah.
I personally think that reputation is everything, and a company's label is everything. And if you love something, you're going to buy that. You're going to pay the premium. You're going to collect it. Something else that looks similar with the same number and this and that, it's not going to sit the same with you. It's not like I'm not going to be jonesing to acquire the same exact thing in a different company, because if you love one company, that's who you invest in. That's who you stick with. That's what you love. And to you, that's like it's music to your ears. You show me something else when I love what I love, it's not going to appeal to me the same way. The aesthetics of it just everything. What do you agree, right?
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man. I do have probably one of the most unique like collections as far as different slabs. Like I got CGC, PSA, Beckett, and SGC Yu-Gi-Oh Pokemon cards, so I'm pretty much all over the place.
Right.
So, but yeah, I definitely there's those niches of people, and they're you like what you like, man. Can't change their mind on it. But I definitely do appreciate you coming on here, Mike, and taking the time and hanging out with me and talking shop. And it's been awesome. 2 hours, quarter.
Yeah.
Fighting for the longest podcast. I don't remember the longest one. It was probably around here though. So
Was it like 3 hours?
I don't think so. It was probably right around 2 hours, 2 hours, 15 minutes. So we're
And
pretty close.
the whole thing gets aired, like none of it cuts off after a certain time?
No, we're full send in the whole thing. So
Are we live right now? Like this is live, or it's gonna go on and people are gonna be able to watch it after the fact? Or
no, so we're still recording right now, and I'm gonna upload this in the next day or so.
well, this is my first podcast, and I'm pleased to say that it's with Joshua Green, and that means a lot to me. Joshua is a great friend, and I've done business with him, and I'm pleased to have you as the first person that I went on the air with. Like, that's an honor. This is episode 31, as I can clearly see on the screen there. You've done me a great deal by having me on it. It's an honor. I know this is what you do. Like, this is your thing that you do, but for me, this is a first time experience. And I honestly could not ask for a better experience than the one that I've had with you tonight. So that's, I speak to you purely and sincerely and intentionally. And, I hope everybody tunes in, that everyone's listening out there. Definitely looking forward to getting on the air again in the future. Definitely looking forward to more deals to come and seeing how this hobby is going to, evolve into the future. It's going to be amazing. And then really thank you so much for your time. I mean,
100%, man. Definitely. Maybe I have to get you and Low popping in a live stream or something, talking market with answering some chat questions.
Me and Low popping are the best of friends. Like, I consider him a true friend, and like, we do business, but he's also a great friend. Shout outs to him and shout outs to my buddy Anthony, my buddy Alex, EA Collectibles, my buddy Anthony, Finest Freak 7, and my buddy Albert, a couple friends I have in the community, Ethan, but my main squad is Low popping and a couple other friends, but Low popping's my number one guy. He's my number one guy, and he's helped me with the collection that I've been able to achieve thus far, and we're still going strong. And I would love to get on a podcast with you and him someday. Really, really great dude. And you're amazing yourself, man. You're a great guy too. And I'm happy that our paths crossed amongst items of interest, like that Zapdos. Is like, literally, a friendship can develop and start just off of a slab, a deal. Like my friendship with you started because I bought that Zapdos from you, and like, you never know what one deal that gone so well is gonna evolve into. You don't know what that's gonna bring about. You don't, like, look at where we are today. We're talking, we're interviewing. Positive outcomes. Good vibes and great feelings come from something as simple as just one transaction. And we don't know where our paths are going to cross in the future. We don't know where they're going to align in the future. And, hopefully we'll do more deals. You never know, So
definitely be looking you up when next time I'm in New York, man. I'll get some supper or something, right?
I would love to go out to a nice dinner, take you out to a nice dinner. If you're ever in New York, it's my treat. If you're ever in New York City and you're over, take you out for a nice steak or something. It's on me.
Oh yeah, man. Sounds good.
And if I'm ever in Detroit for any reason, if I'm in town, I don't know. Are there shows in Detroit? There's shows there, or do they do any stuff with the hobby? Or are you by Michigan? Are you close to Michigan? Or
I'm in Michigan. I'm about an hour from Detroit. Yeah.
About an hour in Detroit, in Michigan, right? Because that's the capital, right? The of the state, right?
No, Lansing.
Lansing, but you're about an hour away from Detroit, right?
Yep.
So yeah, like I said, if I'm ever around that neck of the woods, or if you're in New York City, definitely let's link up sometime soon. And this is Mike Kansar, aka Lieutenant Surge's training arena, with Joshua Green, Dagreenshiz Collectibles. Thank you so much for having me on the air.
Have a good one, man. Dobrennitz. Goodbye.
Have a great evening. Take care.